welcome to Hold Up, a movie podcast. Last time we observed the world of those who keep secrets and a council of one. This time we turn our cameras to those looking to expose secrets and reach as many eyes and ears as possible. Kind of like us, eh, Murphy? Because tonight's theme is journalism. And I am your host, Davan Skelhorn, and with me, as always, my co-host, Chris Worldmind Murphy. How's it going, buddy?
I'm mad as hell, and I can't take it anymore.
Is that right?
I'm actually good. No. I'm, honestly, these movies weren't terrible. I enjoyed them to a degree. I enjoyed.
Yeah.
It's
this
weird.
Is an interesting selection. Let's put it that way.
It's weird, honestly. When I watch these films, my initial reaction is like, "Ugh, what a waste of time." And then I sit back and I reflect on them, and I'm like, you know what? Maybe it wasn't such a waste of time.
Yeah,
there were some good things that were highlighted. I was frustrated with how it was presented, sure, but
I'm like that with movies a lot of times. Like I had a couple of visceral reactions to a couple of these movies, but that faded.
Yeah. My visceral reactions to the first two movies were not. It was like, why do we, and.
Well, we'll get into it.
Yeah, we're gonna get into it.
So here in what do we have for the people in Theater 1, Murphy?
Down at Theater 1, we're looking at 1976 in the network, aren't we?
Yep, starring Faye Dunaway, Peter Finch, William Holden, and Robert Duvall, directed by Sidney Lumet.
Good old town of Sidney Lumet. Let's see what his trailer had for us, shall we?
Let's do it.
And now, the distinguished television news commentator, Mr. Howard Beale.
Ladies and gentlemen, I would like at this moment to announce that I will be retiring from this program in 2 weeks' time.
It was an interesting first shot there, actually, because they say he's the number 4 guy, and they just showed the other 3 guys.
Yeah, I like the multi-screen representation happening.
A week from today.
What the hell's going on?
Prepare yourself for a perfectly outrageous motion picture.
Howard Beale went up there last night and said what every American feels, and he's tired of all the bullshit.
But it's
We're talking about putting a manifestly
anymore.
Irresponsible man
No,
on
it's not, and I can't stand Faye Dunaway's character.
Howard back on the air.
It's not your show anymore, Max. It's mine.
Most of the characters, other than the crazy guy, I can't stand in this movie.
Faye Dunaway's character was designed for it, right?
We'll see. I want a show developed based on the activities of a terrorist group.
That ending scene there.
Make a TV star out of you.
Did not like that as an editor.
Like Archie Bunker.
And this scene had me like, I was like, what the fuck?
Television.
We're number one.
There is no America. There is no democracy. There is only IBM and DuPont and Exxon.
And you have meddled with the primal forces of nature. And you will atone.
Is he Ned
Am I
Beatty?
getting through to you, Mr. Beale?
Why me?
It was your own
He's in
television,
this.
dummy.
That must be it.
Ladies and gentlemen, the Network News Hour with Howard Beale.
I want all of you to get up out of your chairs. I want you to get up right now and go to the window.
Is this a trailer, or is this like trying to show us the entire movie?
Yeah, that was Ned Beatty.
Mad as hell, and I'm not gonna take
No, this is the
anymore.
trailer. This was like the theatrical trailer that was released.
They gave away too much.
They always give away too much.
Right now, go to your windows, stick your head out, and yell, "I'm as mad as hell, and I'm not gonna take this anymore."
That might have been my favorite scene, actually.
Yelling in Atlanta, Ted?
Well, it's too late now. You told me differently.
Yeah. Well, we're seeing it here.
It's true. It's like one of the most climactic
That was
events.
definitely my favorite scene. Yeah.
Network by Patty Chayefsky, directed by Sidney Lumet, produced by Howard Gottfried. Television will never be the same.
Well, you know what? That's prophetic somewhat, because
So
this
prophetic.
movie. Well, look, let's just do this. But let's just say there wouldn't be the third movie we're gonna watch tonight if it wasn't for this movie. I'll tell you that.
Television was never the same. It's true.
No.
It's true. This was like this was the stepping stones for the final movie that we watched tonight. I love how it all comes
Absolutely.
together.
I don't. I do, but I don't. All right, let's break out a little synopsis here for Network. I'm sure I have one. All right, Network. So we have Beale. He's the fourth. Yeah, Howard Beale, played by Peter Finch, and he is the newscaster at United Broadcasting System, and I believe they say he's the fourth. It doesn't say that here, but he's like the fourth most popular one in the city. So he's not the king of the crop, let's just say, but they feel like he's not bringing in the young audience, and they want to fire him. And Max, his network executive Max, played by William Holden, he fires him, but he has to give him his 2 weeks, so he's still gonna like, that's an odd situation to put someone. You fire them and then you still put them on the air for 2 weeks. I mean, they're asking for it, really.
It's true.
But he doesn't like the idea of losing his job, because him and Max go out drinking, and he tells him, he's just like, I don't have anything else. I'm literally just this job, and that's it. So on his next broadcast, he goes out and tells the audience that he's going to kill himself next week on the broadcast, right, live on camera. He's just like, I'm going to kill myself for you all to watch it. He's just like, I want to go out like on top where I like to be, and that's what I'm gonna do. And like, it's crazy, of course. And they're like, well, we can't put him on. He's saying things like that. But then enter in Faye Dunaway, Diana Christensen. She reminds me so much of Rene Rousseau's character. She's like a cross between the two main characters in Nightcrawler. But anyway, she's cutthroat and just all about the job. Like, see, this is why I find her character so offensive, basically, is it's in her portrayal of it too, but people who are just like so motivated in their job. And it's like, but like, it depends on what that job is too. Like, it's different when you're working for yourself, but she's just another cog in the machine, and she's just like so obsessed and like willing to give up her personal morality and do anything to just like do a little bit better at her job. And to me, I just don't find that, like, some people find that, like, I guess, inspiring or something, or like to be that motivated. But like, you got to pick what you got to be motivated for, and I don't know. I don't find it entertaining or engaging or likable, particularly in this character. Anyway, hi Miles, my kitty's here. But he doesn't. There she is. Yeah. So they even force a romance plot into this movie between her and Max, who's like old enough to be her father, and it's awkward. It's not. There's no chemistry between them. It's a really ham-fisted romance plot, I found. But he doesn't go through with it. He doesn't kill himself, obviously, but the ratings are going through the roof because he's saying crazy things.
That shit got me. The whole like, oh, I'm gonna kill myself, and then he just ultimately doesn't do it, and it just continues on for like perceivingly a year.
Well, he keeps saying crazy stuff. He just keeps going off script and just being
he
this,
essentially
like,
becomes like
prophet of the people, basically, where he's just like, everything's a scam. Everyone, like, the fix is in, and you gotta be mad and not take it anymore. And then that's like, again, the best scene. I probably should have said that was my favorite scene, but yeah. Oh, look who it is! That guy on the right there. You see him in a lot of stuff.
Yeah, I was trying to remember his
name. He was
the
father. He's the father in Son-in-Law with Pauly Shore.
Yes, but what's his name?
I forget.
Oh, this is gonna bug me.
A lot of stuff.
Is it?
Like, there's a lot of good actors in this movie. Robert Duvall plays the head of the network. Um, but so he starts rambling about the horrible state of the world and television in particular. And at the end of his broadcast, that's where he tells the viewers to go to the window and shout as loud as they can, "I'm mad as hell, and I'm not gonna take it anymore." And they all do it, and it's a great scene. We saw it in the trailer there.
How many other them are doing?
Like,
is Boston doing it?
Like, that's the counterpoint in this movie, where it's all very, very, like, kind of cutthroat and crass in its journalism, like leading to like Nightcrawler later on that we're going to talk about, where it's just all about the story, and there's like they're giving up on integrity and things like that. Like, this is at kind of the time where the downfall of the news started, as far as, I mean, it depends on who you ask, I guess. But, you know, the 24-hour bullshit news cycle that we have now is garbage. And news used to be more like this, where they'd be owned by the news networks would be owned by huge corporations, but they weren't expected to be profitable. Now everything has to be profitable, and that's the problem. Like, people used to take a hit on their news division because it was all about just keeping it as unbiased and legit as possible, you know. And this movie is like portraying the end of that because of people like Faye Dunaway's character. Like, there's some of the old school guys, like Max is a little more old school, and obviously Howard Beale was more old school. But like, the reason, and that's why they wanted to get rid of his character too, is because he was old school, and they wanted somebody who's more young and controversial and like fantastic, you know. So God, this movie's depressing. Like, you like seeing the beginning of the end, you're like, oh no, this is where it happened. And then we get Nightcrawler. So yeah, they call him the mad prophet of the airwaves, and like I say, they force in the romance plot. It's terrible. That's pretty much the movie. He becomes the hottest TV personality in the entire country, and Faye Dunaway's character becomes, you know, like the shining light of the network for her intuition on keeping Beale on the airwaves. So that's it, though. That's the movie.
That's okay. Okay.
Basically, it's not a deep plot or anything.
I mean, technically, there's a bit more to the plot than that.
Yeah, okay. Well, he gets bigger and bigger. He's doing live shows.
There's also, okay, I think you completely
plot,
just I think okay, stop right there. I think what happened here
go for it.
is you watched this film and you were so turned off by Faye Dunaway, you stopped paying attention to what her storyline was.
Oh, I get what her storyline was. She looked up to Max when she was a student, and he was like the hot young news anchor. And then she's just like, "Oh, now I'm older. Now I can bang this old guy." But like, they had no chemistry. It wasn't interesting.
They also had the weakest sex scene I've ever seen. This was like, she humped him twice, came, and then laid down. It was like, wow, that was that was
supposed to be funny though. That was like a joke, because this is definitely like a satire. But like, compared to other satires we've watched, such as like Doctor Strangelove, this is
okay. But the thing is, she was also trying to bring in new shows. Like, there was that whole like subplot where she was trying to bring in like radical like TV shows and reality TV shows as well, which also was a precursor to what things would be.
This was very prophetic movie. Very much so. Like, it took 20 years or more for some of this stuff to come to fruition, but yeah.
I was surprised to see Robert Duvall in this movie, and he looked exactly the same as he has
Yeah, I know. I thought that same thing, and I laughed. That's pretty funny.
I
Yeah,
was like, hey, it's Robert Duvall, and he looks exactly the same. He's well preserved.
Well preserved.
No, I loved it. Okay, so realistically, what happened? Hi, I'm gonna put you down.
Why don't you take the plot from there, Murphy? Because
all right, so basically, Howard Beale, he steps the stage and he wants to do the whole like I'm gonna commit suicide on TV, which draws in the audience and brings the numbers. And Faye Dunaway's character, I think her name was Christina.
Diana.
She sees the Diana. Sorry, she sees. Yeah, Diana Christensen. That's it. She sees the opportunity to become, jump on these ratings and ride the wave, and she sees the gold mine that Howard Beale is. She milks.
And I get her character. Like she's like a female in a male-dominated workplace, and she's trying to like prove herself to them, and then prove herself to be better than them as well. But
very much so.
Again,
and basically,
I don't know if it's her performance or what, but I didn't find any of that interesting.
That's fair, and obviously she is running this UBS, which is a fake news station next to like ABC, NBC, and CBS, and ultimately would become what we now know as Fox News. Weirdly enough, all the things that happened, but through the chaos of Howard Beale becoming wilder and crazier, and he would have these like rants and spiels on stage and just straight pass out. Just after he was done saying what he was done, he would straight pass out on
no one would
stage.
check on him or anything, though. Everyone would just be like, "Yay!"
Yep, just start clapping and pushing on the camera, like no big deal.
Like he's clearly having a mental breakdown, and they're just exploiting it, and it's a bit nuts.
So yeah, Faye Dunaway and William Holden, they get together and they have the weakest love chemistry. They move through. To the point where William Holden's or Peter Finch. Yes, Peter Finch's character. He's gotten so insane and too powerful for them to actually take off air because they need the ratings. So they're just like, well, what do we do with him? Like, well, they try to get him to listen to the big boss in one of my favorite scenes, honestly, and through the process, basically. Like, love this. And then you have the whole side story where she's trying to like run I don't even know what to call them, I guess. Like they don't quite say what group their name is, but I guess black radical sort of reality TV shows what she's trying to present, and this lady's has to follow Howard Beale, and she's losing her shit on Faye Dunaway's character because the numbers are dipping and people are starting to get bored of the ranting and stuff like that. And through that process, her and this old guy break up. He's like, I don't know, I'll figure it out. I'm like, well,
who already lost his wife and everything because of it, didn't he?
Right, and then in no word of a lie, this scene where they finish this scene where they kill him. It's just like clapping audience, clapping audience, clapping audience. He comes, he walks in, stands up, Uzi, stands up, pistol, blam, blam, blam. And they just push in on him. And it was cut so fast and so poorly. I was like, well, that just sucked me out of this movie entirely. And that's what really was disappointing, I found.
Yep.
But yeah.
It was I'm of kind of two minds about this movie. It's like, because it really is prophetic, and Peter Finch was great in it, and his character, every time he's on screen, I'm interested. But every time his character's not on screen, I am not interested.
Yeah.
So, it's tough. It's tough.
Well, like
anything else you'd want to say about the plot and storytelling there, Murphy?
I would say
there's not much of one.
There's not much of one. In fact, there was this film has like 2 or 3 good scenes in about a 2-hour film, and I don't know.
Yep.
It wasn't jumping out at me, but I gotta know. What was your favorite scene?
What scene would I hold up? Well, I'm not sure which one I picked and told you, but we'll go with that. But also, I'll mention I really love the I'm mad as hell. I'm not gonna take it anymore.
Take that.
I
think that's the most classic and obvious scene in the film. We try to maybe avoid those. Go for something a little more esque, but this is what you chose.
Cue announcer. The UBS Evening News.
Oh yeah, the very first
With
one.
Howard
Yeah, this
Beale.
is good stuff.
Ready to? Cue Howard.
See, I was in the movie at this point. I was
Today
all
is
in.
Wednesday, September the 24th. And this is
Yeah,
my
I
last
was too,
broadcast.
but then they started focusing on the like love
Yesterday, I
relationship
announced on this
thing, and it was
program
like,
that I was going to commit public suicide. Admittedly, an act of madness. Well, I'll tell you what happened.
Oh no, this is his
I just
second
ran out of
broadcast,
bullshit.
right?
All right, cut him off.
Leave him on.
leave them on.
Oh, the bullshit.
Am I
This
still
is
on
my
the air?
favorite. Yeah, this is great.
how he wants to go out.
I don't know any other way to say it, except that I just ran out of bullshit.
Yeah. Look, Mr. Schumacher's right here. Do you want to talk to him?
Bullshit is all the reasons we give for living. And if we can't think of any reasons of our own, we always have the God bullshit.
Holy Mary, Mother of
We don't
Yeah,
know why
Tom,
the
what
hell
is
we're
it?
going through all this pointless pain, humiliation, and decay, so there better be someone somewhere who does know. That's the God bullshit.
He's saying that life is bullshit, and it is. So what are you screaming
And it
about?
As a
is.
noble creature.
Yeah, that was my favorite line in the whole movie. What? He's saying life is bullshit, and it is. What are you talking about? Like, yeah, love it. Yeah, and that was an interesting speech for him to be making too, because this is like the beginning of the bullshit. Like the bullshit gets way worse. He starts talking about it in this movie, and then 20 years later, the world is pretty consumed by bullshit.
Yeah, no, it's kind of it's funny how this film was designed to be a satire, but every scene of it doesn't play as a satire
true.
because it's
'Cause it
just
came
like,
true.
This is life. What do
Yeah,
you
man.
mean? What do you mean this
Geez,
is supposed to be a satire? I thought, is this not like supposed to be played straight? It kind of feels like it's played straight, but poorly.
I think
And
yeah,
it's
might be
wild.
changing my mind on this movie a little. Let's what scene would you hold up, Myth?
You know what? The one that I had that hold up was when he had to come to face to Ned Beatty's character.
Oh yes, just because of the long kind of dark
Yeah,
table shot.
Arthur Jensen.
Like,
oh, I
it
love
is a
that
cool
shot. It
shot.
was gorgeous.
You have meddled
those
with
old
the
like
primal
Tiffany
forces
lamps.
of nature, Mr. Beale, and I won't have it. Is that clear?
Is that
You
clear?
think you merely stopped a business
won't
deal?
have it.
That is not the case. The Arabs have taken billions of dollars out of this country, and now they must put it back.
And now they must
It
put
is
it
ebb
back.
and flow, tidal gravity. It is ecological balance.
It's
You
just
are an old man
the core.
who thinks in terms
Everything
of
about this is
nations
the
and
core.
peoples. There are no nations. There are no peoples. There are no Russians. There are no Arabs. There are no third worlds. There is no West. There is
bullshit.
only one holistic system of systems. One vast and immane, interwoven, interacting, multivariate, multinational dominion of dollars. Petrodollars, electrodollars, multi-dollars, Reichmarks, rins, rubles, pounds, and shekels. It is the international system of currency which determines the totality of life on this planet. That is the natural order of things today. That
He's just so
is
stunned,
the
Peter Pan.
atomic and subatomic and galactic structure of things today.
Yeah, this is a great scene.
And you have meddled with the primal forces of nature. And you will atone. Am I getting through to you, Mr. Beale?
Am I getting through to you, Mr. Beale?
You get up on your little 21-inch screen and howl about America and democracy. There is no America. There is no democracy. There is only IBM and ITT and AT&T and DuPont, Dow, Union Carbide,
Rich
and
people.
Exxon. Those are the nations of the world today.
Those are the nations.
What do you think the Russians talk about in their councils of state? Karl Marx? They get out their linear programming charts, statistical decision theories, Minimax solutions, and compute the price-cost probabilities of their transactions and investments, just like we do. We no longer live in a world of nations and ideologies, Mr. Beale. The world is a college of corporations, inexorably determined by the immutable bylaws of business. The world is a business, Mr. Beale.
The world is a business.
It has been since man crawled out of the slime.
Well, I hope this movie didn't manifest all this stuff into existence.
Wouldn't that be wild?
God damn.
To see that perfect world in which there's no war or famine, oppression or brutality.
It'd be nice.
One vast and ecumenical holding company for whom all men will work to serve a common profit, in which all men will hold a share of stock, all necessities provided, all anxieties tranquilized, all boredom amused.
Am I getting through to you, Mr. Beale?
And I have chosen you, Mr. Beale, to preach this evangel.
Why me?
Because you're on television, dummy.
Which is
like that whole scene is like, is he the boss? Is he the devil? Is he God? Like, who is Ned Beatty there? Like, that's
the thing. He says, like, later in that scene, he's like, am I looking at the face of God? He's like, you very well may have. And the thing too is he also says the line, because you're on television, dummy. And earlier in the film, there's a scene where he's all passed out and he wakes up and he's like, ah, okay, I understand. And he goes back on TV and he was like, I was told that I needed to be on here and I asked them why. I asked the voice why and it said to me, because you're on television, dummy. So he like thought of this before it happened, or like, I don't know. It was a wild little ride. It's just I don't know. It was probably my favorite scene, I would have to say.
Which performance would you hold on?
I mean, Peter Finch held it together, but really, it was
Return it to Ned.
Yeah, I'm gonna give it to Ned.
Just for that one monologue. It was
just
long.
for that one monologue. It won me over. Like, it had so much gravitas, so much humor, so much like the way he went, like, you will atone. Am I getting through to you, Ned? Like that ability.
You will atone, Mr. Bill.
Yeah. So good.
Yeah. So I'll give it to Peter Finch then. This was his last movie.
Yeah.
So he went out strong. Like, what odd performance to go out on, because it's all about going out. Like, it's all about ending your career and being fired and aging and being exploited. Yeah. What do you think of the setting aesthetic?
I thought it was pretty cool. I thought it portrayed
that table scene there. That looked beautiful.
The table scene was the most gorgeous scene. Like, there was
I'm not gonna take it anymore with the building and everyone, like they just keep adding to it. Like, another person will come to the window and it's just a static shot, but then you see another person and they all just start yelling it, and oh yeah, that's nuts.
Yeah, and I love some of the television, like, stage scenes too, and how they kind of like the low angle, like that his set where he had to like walk in and like close the wall behind him, and he was basically like locked in this little desk. Like, I thought that was really a nice little touch, honestly. Yeah, no, it was well done. It's so weird. It's such a weird.
It's two movies. Like, I feel like it's two movies. It's one movie that's trying to be, like, satirical, of course, but prophetic, and maybe not prophetic. That might be a bit egotistical on their part, but it's looking towards the future. It's predictive. It's trying to be predictive, and like it's just extrapolating on things they're seeing in their society in 1976, and it's just like, well, here's how it's going to spin out of control, likely, or could. And then the second plot, which is just the behind the scenes network / romance stuff. And it's just like, it felt like two different movies.
I will admit, I could have done without the whole like romance plot. The only one thing that the romance plot really highlighted, which you're not normally getting, is the moment. I think it was the first time she slept with
Max.
the old guy,
Max.
Max. Yeah, the first time she slept with Max. Basically, what happened there? She sees the TV and then immediately sort of like hops up on the edge of the bed and like pays attention to the TV and is like totally zoned in and thinking about her job instead of like what is supposed to be that time.
She does have one hilarious line though, which is when they're at dinner and she just goes, "Just so you know, I'm a terrible lay." And he doesn't care. He's super old, and this young hot chick that's super interested in him, so he doesn't really care if she's a terrible lay or not. So it's even extra
She
funny
in
for that
fact
reason.
is a terrible lay.
In fact, was, which it was hilarious actually how they paid that off. So like that was the one thing I liked with her and Max in it. It was pretty fun.
Yeah, good shit.
So Murphy, have you any morsels for us?
Do I have any morsels? Well, I certainly do. I do have some morsels. Let me just pull those up. So we got movie morsels for the movie Night Network from 1976. Every one of Howard Beale's shows has the same studio audience. Note the man in the black vest with the long hair and a beard. Peter Finch was desperate to win the role of Howard Beale. Once he read the script, he even offered to pay his own airfare to New York City for the screen test. But Sidney Lumet was concerned about Finch's Australian accent. Finch won the part after sending Lumet a recording of himself reading the New York Times with a perfect American accent.
I didn't even know he was Australian, so I was convinced.
Yeah, neither did I. So it's kind of wild there.
Yeah.
The the on-air murder of Howard Beale was inspired by the real-life on-air suicide of anchorwoman Christine Chubbuck.
Oh, I didn't know that was a real thing.
Yeah, no,
But
neither did
that
I.
also didn't make sense. Like the fact that two guys just showed up to gun him down. Like he didn't seem to be stirring up that kind of shit. Sure, civil unrest, somewhat, but it's like it was vague. Like who was he targeting? Like that would hire two killers to come get him, you know?
Well, that's the
It
problem with
that
the
that
movie.
didn't make
That's
any
just
sense to
how it
me.
ends, Like there's no
Yeah.
explanation to anything. It's just like pop, 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 and it's over. And it's like, okay, well, that was a waste of time.
Yeah.
Writer Peter Chayefsky was eerily prophetic in his screenplay in three significant
Very.
ways. First, the screenplay pertains to the going on at UBS, the fictional fourth network existing alongside the non fictional ABC, CBS, and NBC. In 1987, Fox became the real fourth network. Second, in her speech to her employees about her goals for UBS, Diane Christensen by Faye Dunaway says, I don't want conventional programming on this network. I want counterculture. I want anti-establishment, the type of programming delivered by Fox with its two debut series, Married with Children, 1987, and The Tracy Ullman Show in 1987.
I feel like every network eventually gets a Faye Dunaway. Like somebody walked into MTV at some point and was just like, you know what? Who likes music these days anyway? Let's do reality shows and other bullshit. Like they all have one of these people and they all think they're so friggin' smart and they're not. They're destructive is what they are.
Um,
And
Third, Diana Christensen's creation of the show about the Eucumen, sorry, Ecumenical Liberation Army and its criminal activities is precedent in the reality TV in that, as a result of the writers' strike of 1989, Fox started to run low on all new content. To replace it, the network brought the show Cops 1989, which featured police officers trying to thwart criminal activity despite very noteworthy predecessors such as An American Family 1973, which depicted the experience of the Loud family, and Scared Straight 1978 from Consider Cops in 89, the true progenitor of the long-running trend of reality TV. And director Sidney Lumet and screenwriter Paddy Chayefsky claimed the film was not meant to be satire, but a reflection of what was really happening. Beatrice Straight, which
I
is
don't know
Max's
if I
wife.
buy that.
No, you don't think it.
I think
You don't
it's
think
pretty
you feel like
clearly
it.
a set. Like, it's not dripping in satire or anything, but like clearly all the Beale stuff is pretty satirical. And Ned Beatty, like, come on. But like Faye Dunaway's playing it straight for the most part.
Yeah, she's definitely playing it straight.
That's what I
Speaking
mean.
of
It's two
straight,
movies. It's the satire movie and it's the like behind the scenes movie or TV network movie.
Speaking of straight, Beatrice Straight, who won the Oscar for Best Supporting Actress, was only in 2 scenes. The first, her only dialogue was "Wake up, Max," because Howard is gone, and the second was her 4-minute and 38-second diatribe against her husband's confession that he played by Holden, was having an affair with Diana Christensen.
This was very good, actually.
Yeah. This should qualify as one of the shortest screen times to win the coveted gold statue.
It is impressive.
Right?
I mean, it wasn't even the best monologue in this movie, but it was very good. Like, I didn't like Max anyway, and I'm like, yeah, I totally get what you're saying. There, Max's wife.
Since the entire movie was filmed on location, all the office building scenes at night in which the city outside was seen through high-rise windows had to actually be filmed at night without backdrops. The rainstorm scene outside Frank Hackett's office when he rants about Howard Beale's ratings was also real and had to be matched with artificial rain for the following scene in the script of Howard Beale as he's walking on the street and his soaking wet, disheveled appearance thereafter. Paddy Chayefsky wanted Walter Matthau or Gene Hackman for Max Schumacher.
Not Hackman. Well, for Max, okay, maybe.
Just Walter Matthau?
That's weird. Seeing some young lady hook up with Walter Matthau would not play right in my mind.
So weird.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah, sorry, Walter Matthau. I love you.
During rehearsal, Sidney Lumet noticed William Holden would not look Faye Dunaway directly in the eye during dialogue dealing with his fear of aging and death. Lumet told Holden to instead never break eye contact, and Holden nailed the speech in one take.
Well, he was a big time actor back then, William Holden. His first appearance on this podcast, I believe. But the good thing about this podcast is a lot of things are showing up more than once. A lot of actors, a lot of directors. Like
a lot of scenes, like
the
swimming
cinema
scene.
history here, Murphy.
This was our second movie in this podcast where we watched two men race in the water, except one was epic and in the ocean and kind of an alright movie, and the other one was in a pool in the next movie that we're going to
you mean Gattaca?
Yeah.
The Gattaca swim? That swim scene in Gattaca was good. Gattaca just as a whole didn't work for me anymore. But
the famous line is specifically written by Paddy Chayefsky. "I'm as mad as hell and I'm not going to take it anymore" became "I'm mad as hell and I'm not going to take it anymore" when uttered by Peter Finch, with the first "as" omitted. Finch had become so exhausted working on that particular scene he accidentally dropped the "as," causing writer Chayefsky much grief, but not enough to prompt director Lumet to change the film dialogue.
It's better.
Right?
It's better. Like, no one is going to be that precise in their dialogue when they run to a window and yell, "I'm mad as hell." And, like, "I'm as mad as hell." It's just not colloquial. That's not how people talk. Maybe they did in 1976, but I don't think they did. I think Peter Finch nailed it.
Yeah. So again, we got wrap these ones up. So Black radical Lauren Hobbs character is loosely modeled after communist activist Angela Davis. With his best screenplay win for this film, Paddy Chayefsky became the first screenwriter to win 3 Academy Awards for the script that he wrote by himself. The other 2 awards were for his work on Marty in 1955 and The Hospital in 1971. Contrary to popular belief, Woody Allen was not the second person to achieve this feat because his shared Oscar for Annie Hall in 1977 was with Marshall Brickman. Director Sidney Lumet witnessed Peter Finch's death. Finch was seated in the lobby of the Beverly Hills Hotel waiting for Lumet to go to an interview for the film together when he collapsed of a heart attack. As Lumet approached, Finch was taken to the hospital where he was pronounced dead in the ICU
Oh
several
my
hours
God, he
later.
didn't even get to see the release of his last movie that he
Never
so
regained
much wanted to.
consciousness.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. See, this movie did bring all this stuff into existence. Sidney Lumet, for shame you and your witchcraft powers.
uh, in 2005, I guess it was a sacrifice. In 2005, in preparation for what eventually be a scrapped project for a live television adaptation of this film, George Clooney screened the film for a group of teens and young adults in order to determine their reactions to it. He found, much to his surprise, that none of the young people recognized the film as satire. I couldn't understand it, Clooney told the Associated Press. Then he realized that everything Padashevsky wrote about had happened. Screenwriter Aaron Sorkin has claimed that Padashevsky, and particularly his script for this film, had been a majority inspiration for his own writing, and he has written no prediction of the future, not even Orwell, has ever been as right as Chayefsky as when he wrote Network.
Yeah, it might be true. I mean, this movie is insanely... Like, we'll talk about it later when we get to Nightcrawler, but my God.
Sidney Lumet openly admitted that he was furious to have the picture lose to Rocky in 1976 for Best Picture at the Academy Awards.
Rocky's a better movie than this.
And this is the last one. According to Sidney Lumet, the mad as hell speech was filmed in 1.5 takes. Midway through the second take, Peter Finch abruptly stopped in exhaustion. Lumet was unaware of Finch's failing heart at the time, but in any case, did not ask for a third take. The complete film features the second of the first take and the first half of the second take. And that's how it's done. Cinematography was by Owen Roisman, edited by Alan Heim, and music by Elliot Lawrence. Release date of November 27, 1976, with a running time of 121 minutes. The budget was $3.8 million, with a box office of $23.7 million.
Rewatchability. You gonna watch this one again?
I feel like I could watch scenes of this one again. I feel like the majority I could probably skip. But you know what? I probably would rewatch it again, especially if there was somebody I met and they're like, I've never seen this movie. I'd be like, we should watch this.
I'm there with you. Like, I'm so mixed on this movie, but like the good things shine through the things I don't like. I do believe.
Right? Like, I was ready to be like,
I would want to watch that Ned Beatty scene again. I want to watch the Beale stuff again.
Yeah,
for sure.
Pretty
I'll
much
watch this again in, like,
pretty much the majority of every
years.
Peter Finch scene.
I agree. Rewatchability on Network. All right. Does it hold up? The big question. I'm going to start us off here, and let me say this, Murphy. As a satire, it definitely does not hold up in the slightest, as George Clooney found out. As a satire, it absolutely does not hold up. So you have to take it completely different. Because if you're going into this expecting to, like, get a bit of a chuckle from, like, you know, like Dr. Strangelove or another good old satire, you're not going to find it here, really. I mean, a couple of chuckles, like the Ned Beatty and the bullshit line and stuff, and the thing about her being a terrible lay, but it just doesn't play like a satire anymore, as you said. It's just a disturbingly accurate movie. And for that reason, it does hold up.
Well, you know what?
And the performances
not
are
just
great.
a movie. In fact, if anything, this is probably one of my favorite documentaries next to Mars Attacks.
There you go.
This movie holds up without a shadow of a doubt. It's just kind of delivered in a boring package, and the side story subverts from the things you really want to watch. And admittedly, you know, that's the big problem with it. So, but it is an experience to watch and just kind of be in awe of, like, wow, this is a thing. This is happening. It's all right. Here we are. 76 got it right, and we're, you know, in 2023.
Yeah, man, they gotta. Like,
yeah, it holds up.
Like, we should be. Why are we still talking about Nostradamus when there's this guy?
Yeah, yeah. I wonder what else he's written about.
Yeah, seriously. All right, so we have an addition to our A movies tonight, joining the likes of Matinee, so you know you're in good company, and House Party, and Soylent Green, and Doctor Strangelove. Yeah. The Bridge on the River Kwai, lots of good stuff here, and now Network and North by Northwest from last episode. So let's move on to Theater 2, shall we? Theater 2 may be a less enjoyable theater. Let's find out. The Year of Living Dangerously, 1982, starring Mel Gibson, Sigourney Weaver, and Linda Hunt, directed by Peter Weir. Now, before we hit the trailer there, Murphy, I'm going to preface this. The reason I chose this movie is because, I don't know, for those of you who've never checked out my wonderful X-Men podcast, X-Rated,
you have an X-Men podcast?
Show. I sure do.
What?
And we interviewed the voice of Rogue, Lenore Zan, and in my rapid fire question round at the end of the interview, I asked her what her favorite movie was, and she said The Year of Living Dangerously. So that's why I added it. And I guess we have different tastes in movies, Lenore and I, but she's great.
Okay. You know what, Davan? I know your mindset right now, and I'm sort of in the same mindset. But on my quick review of this film,
I'm coming around a little on it, but
there might
much.
be just a little hope. I'm just gonna say, like, there. Let's get into discussion, shall we?
All right.
Let's pop in the
so the Year of Living Dangerously. Okay. Let's hit the trailer.
Oh yeah, I forgot there's a trailer. Whoopsie. Oh, the trailer.
Hamilton.
Really didn't paint an exciting picture.
Occupation, journalist.
It was accurate.
Carter, first assignment as foreign correspondent.
A reporter on the way in.
You're an enemy here, Hamilton. Like
See,
always.
I'm sure we'll get into the good and the bad of this movie, but what's inescapable is that this movie is 99% boring.
Hoping to bluff your way through.
That's its issue.
But you
it's
won't.
Very boring.
Guy Hamilton, right?
Right.
And we'll talk about Linda Hunt in a minute.
Bryant, Gillian Edith.
Her tiny back must be broken from carrying this film.
As problematic as the role is.
On the way out.
Massively problematic, but well done.
3 weeks.
To what?
Oh, well, she's a good
Then I
actress.
go home.
Where's that?
London.
Had enough of the tropics, eh?
I've been
Had
on the
enough of the
move
tropics,
5
eh?
years. I'd like to go someplace and stay.
Her accent is terrible in this, but Sigourney Weaver, but
So it begins.
it's like this half British accent.
That scene didn't wild. That was
Yeah.
probably one of my favorite scenes. Right there. The rock scene with the crowd,
Yeah.
the chaos.
I'm not to give you some fantastic scoop. I just want you to save your life.
If you let the story break, everyone will know it came from her.
I can't let a story like that just lie.
I was so distracted by Linda Hunt, and not in a good way,
Use this.
for most
You
of
shouldn't
this
have
movie.
told me.
Really?
You are capable of betrayal. You're
Not that her
going to
performance
take a
wasn't
risk.
good, but
Just
the
her
fact that that's
character
who she's
motivations were very aggravating,
I
and
gave
like,
you my
what are you
trust.
doing? And there was
So
no
you
resolution to it.
no,
That's why I
not
gave you
like.
those stories. You
There's
think
no
are so
resolution to
important.
almost anything in this.
A lot of
That's
things
my
in this
problem.
film, which just makes it so aggravating.
I made you
Yeah.
feel something about what you
It
brought.
just felt like a bunch of scenes thrown together that don't really have connective tissue.
What is it? What's going on?
There's no reason to care about any of these characters, really.
I don't want to lose you.
Romance, again, ham-fisted, just like the last one. Would have been better without it. Even though this is supposed to be a romance movie, like that's one of its main points.
Exclusive interview with the leader of the Indonesian. This is Guy Hamilton.
Yeah,
in
the-
Jakarta for ABS.
I feel like
Metro
the
Goldwyn
romance
presents
portion
a
of
new
this
film
film
by Peter
ruins
Weir.
the obviously like
Mel Gibson.
important portion of this film.
Yeah.
Sigourney Weaver.
Like,
The Year of Living
It's trying to,
Dangerously.
show the plight in Indonesia during this, what is it, Jakarta? regime.
Yeah, like okay.
Yeah.
One, I had no idea honestly
In the
about
60s.
yeah, like any of these events that happened as they were happening. Obviously for many reasons because I wasn't born until like the late 80s, but even still that guy had been running terror for what apparently was like 37 years. Autocratic terror all over Indonesia. So like this in fact this film wasn't even
Like
released
most of
in
the
Indonesia for
communist
like
regimes of
33
that
years.
day.
Yeah, so like it's just like and you go into watching this film and it's just like here's some like horrific looking slums and shit like that, and here's some scenarios that we're gonna start setting up, and you start getting this intrigue of you know of Mel Gibson's character literally like trying to report the news. One, I didn't even know that he was a part of an Australian television news network. I thought he was just a radio news
No,
guy.
I did. They say that early on when he calls them, because one of the first scenes is one of the ones I like in this movie, where he's just calls back to the station. He does his report, actually, and he's like Guy. What is it, Guy Richardson or something like Guy something? His name is. I have that here. Hold on, Guy Smiley. No, not Guy Smiley. Guy Hamilton.
Hamilton, yeah,
So
that's right.
yeah, and he gives them his report, which is not even a report. He's just like, "Yep, there's communist uh party stuff going on and civil unrest and all this stuff," and he's just like, "Yeah," and signing off. Thinks he has this big report because he's there. He's just like, just because I'm here, relaying that information to you, even if it's information you already know, it's significant. And they're like, "No, man, that's a travel log, not a report. Get us something, basically." Because he's
Yeah,
the
but I
newbie.
mean,
There's a group of these international journalists, of which Sigourney Weaver is one, and they sort of have like an uneasy truce between them all. Okay, well, I'll get into the plot here.
yeah, let's follow up on this plot. Give me your plot detail, and we'll start.
So he's Guy Hamilton is a foreign correspondent for the Australian TV network, and he arrives in Jakarta on assignment, and that's when he meets all these other journalists and stuff, and Billy Kwan, played by Linda Hunt. So again, Linda Hunt is playing a half Australian, half Chinese male character. So interesting choice.
I think it's actually half Korean.
No, it's half Chinese. Half Chinese,
Is it?
half Australian. Yep.
Okay.
I've seen that documented in about 5 different places now.
Okay.
So, yeah. No, he, I guess the character mentions something about being from China in the movie as well.
Right, okay.
So here's the thing. Going in, I knew, because I'm quite familiar with Linda Hunt, and I knew that she used to play these types of characters just because of how she looks. Being, has some sort of dwarfism, and
just character actor.
Yeah, and just like an interesting look. So they would cast her as Asian characters and things like that. And it's just like, because we don't do that anymore, I found it a bit distracting. I gotta say, she's clearly like the best performance in this movie. Because normally I say anything Sigourney Weaver touches turns to gold, but that is not the case here. Her performance is pretty flat, I find.
I was
Mel
waiting
Gibson
for that gold.
isn't
These three guys here,
particularly
these three like journalist guys were right douchebags. All of them.
They were kind of funny. They were the funniest part. But like in another like
I didn't find them funny whatsoever.
No, they were like very
so
pig-headed
creepy.
and like gross. Like they just hire this one guy to come in and like tell Mel Gibson he's his father and like jump all over him and all this. Like it's really uncomfortable. They're exploiting poor people and they think it's fun. Like yeah they're not good guys. That's for sure.
But yeah, no, there's Billy and Billy and Guy, they go for a walk through the slums, and he tells them about the story of like what's it take, or what's the measure of a man, I believe, or something like that. Not really, but it was not what the measure of a man. Sorry, I was watching earlier Deep Space Nine podcast earlier.
So the problem Guy is having is his predecessor quit without giving him any of his contacts, basically. So he's sent there, and he has no way to get information or get contacts of his own except through Billy. And Billy, like some of the more intriguing stuff has to do with Billy, but again, it doesn't get resolved. Like he keeps files on everybody, but that just makes sense to cover his back. But like he asks him about it, and he never gets an answer, and that's one of the more interesting things. And you have to wonder why Billy has all these contacts as well, because he has contacts with everybody. He's like, look, if you want to, he tells Guy, if you want an interview with like the head of the communist regime, or the lead general or something like that, he's just like, I'll get you one tomorrow, but just be sure you want it, because it's like, so none of that gets resolved. And so then Billy, who seems to, why is Billy so interested in Jill and Guy getting together? Like Billy's playing matchmaker and keeps mentioning the other to the other. Like, what do you think of Jill? Huh? Or like, and when he's hanging with Guy, or like hanging with Jill, he's like, what do you think of Guy? Pretty handsome, huh? Like,
yeah, he's playing.
Like,
he's
why do you
like
care? It's
a
weird. It's
version
weird.
of Facebook.
Like I'm not as like I understand it's a pretty good performance and everything, but I'm not super into Linda Hunt's performance of this character. I don't like this character's
No,
weird.
it's very creepy and unsettling, but like
no, not even being creepy and unsettling. It's just it doesn't make sense. Nothing in this movie makes sense to me. I don't know, maybe I'm stupid or something, but I just like couldn't follow anything that was going on. I was admittedly a little tired when I watched it, but it was making me more tired just by being boring and lacking connective tissue or exciting scenes or like interesting scenes. I didn't find a lot of that here. And it should be, because I'm interested in history and politics and all the things that and even journalism and the things that this movie's supposed to be about. But they sort of squander it with the romance plot and it's just so weird. Like I don't understand any of the motivations of the characters other than Mel Gibson, who's just trying to get a story. That's easy enough to understand.
Okay. So I mean,
so he finds out that the communist Chinese government is arming the PKI. So that's his big scoop. And Jill. Oh no, Jill gives this right. Jill gave that information to Guy to save his life, but he wants to cover the communist rebellion that will occur when the arms shipment reaches Jakarta. So like he's just like, I'm not going to tell anybody because it's better for me if this actually happens. And that's when Billy and Jill cut off contact with Guy, and he's left hanging out with the American journalist. And then like fast forward, he shows up at Billy's house, and Billy's like thrown out a window, which just kind of comes out of nowhere. And like they all just happen to be there. Like Jill sees it too. It's just like everybody happens to just be there when Billy's getting thrown out this window.
Okay, I feel like you're missing some pretty heavy plot points here, my guy. Like you're just all over the board. What's going on tonight?
So was this movie.
I think. Okay. So basically, what happens here is Guy Hamilton comes to the country, and he's looking to break the news on all the things that are happening in Ijinita and Sukarno's order. He can't get any leeway with any of the other journalists, and he teams up with Billy Kwan. And Billy's like, "I'll be your eyes, you be the words, and I'll get you where you need to go."
Murphy.
Huh?
You don't need to rehash all the things I just said. I said that
Yeah,
stuff.
I know, but I also need to like do it in a manner so I can sort of like organize. Anyway, he gets to that point, but basically there's the side story of Billy not only being like a creepy stalker and trying to connect these two through like parties or whatever. Sigourney Weaver, and this is the big diversion of the story. See, this story is highlighting all these atrocities and then immediately diverts and takes away from them by starting to go in the route of a love story and following Sigourney Weaver and Mel Gibson. And Sigourney Weaver's character is basically a spy working with British intelligence and she lets it slip to Guy Hamilton that the PKI is coming to attack, and everybody's gonna get out.
Yeah.
In this process, Billy Kwan, while this is all happening, is also taking care of an Indonesian mother and her child and trying to keep them like protected and stuff like that.
Yeah, he gives them the like, did you adopt the kid? He's like, no, I just like pay for everything.
He just gives them money because he feels bad for them and he wants to see them better. And he tells her to go to a doctor because they're drinking like shitty well water or shitty river water that's just like filled with like cholera and shit like that. Like just absolute poison water.
Why didn't they hire just a Chinese actor to play this character? Why did they get Linda Hunt? It's
because
so distracting.
Nobody played the character like the director wanted, and Linda Hunt did the deal. You know.
Yeah.
So anyway,
all right.
Billy Kwan's character, or Linda Hunt's character, Billy Kwan, is trying to take care of this family. Encourages the mother to go to a doctor, which
the reason I didn't bring that up is because none of that has anything to do with anything.
Well, okay, but no, there is a reason to bring this up. There is a reason to bring this up. Because this is the driving force for why Billy Kwan goes to a hotel room and like breaks his love for Serrano. Up until this moment in the movie, he thinks that Serrano is a great dictator and he's doing the job and he's trying to help the people. He's kind of brainwashed. He's even telling the other journalists all this stuff. But in the meantime, he's trying to take care of this like mother and their child, and the mother doesn't. I don't know if she doesn't listen to him or if it's too late. They don't elaborate on that, so it makes it very hard to care about that censorship. All you get is he gives her money in one scene, and then later in the movie, he goes back to them, and she is having a funeral for her son, which is like head to toe, like nude and like bathing in like flower water. And I was like tapped out of the movie at that point. I was fucking done. I was like, nope, this isn't necessary. This movie just feels exploitive and for nothing more than to drive the story of a love story.
Yeah, exactly right. Like all these little nuggets of seriousness they throw in there. None of that has any weight. None of that has any.
It's not that it doesn't have weight.
It
has weight. It has weight.
Weight's not the right word, but it has nothing to do with this story.
Well, it does and it doesn't, right? It's basically it's emotional strings being pulled by making you like invested in what is a poverty story and everything that's like wrong with it. But they don't give any resolution to any of the poverty story. It just compounds. That's not what the story's about.
It's just a setting. They're setting a setting. All this
it
is,
but they milk the setting
for a romance.
Right, right, exactly. Yes, but like, yes, I get that. Yes, it's a setting. It's a setting that they exploit like a lot, and it's to an uncomfortable degree. And while they're exploiting that, Billy Kwan's character goes into trauma state. He's watched the child that he's cared for essentially die, and in his sort of trauma state, he sees there's like this this wagon of rice that gets cut open, and while that rice is being fed, I had this in the slides earlier, but I must have cut them out. Anyway, there was this rice that was being fed, and there's like this little girl eating rice, dry rice and dirt because it's all the food, and he's just like looking at him. And there's a scene later where he's like looking up at Sukarno, and he's just like, he's just devastated, and he gives up. Yeah, this is it. It's all here. Why did all this get any? Yeah.
Yeah.
And this is what leads him ultimately to his demise, because he's like, well, this Sukarno isn't everything, and he just wants you to, take care of the people, right? And that's what leads him to the hotel, because he sees all these people, and he thinks about the kid. So he goes up to the floor, and he knows what he's gonna do is a death sentence. This is anti-propaganda towards the theocratic state, The guards come rushing the door, and he faces his death, and they push him out the window, which was kind of a doll, you could tell. And then you just get this scene.
It seemed too fast. It seemed too fast.
It is. It snowballs, because this is the end of the seriousness. This is all the weight of the seriousness of this movie. This is the final act for all that stuff, because everything else that follows it is more or less just kind of like weak follow through, like earlier in the film we had like we had Mel Gibson and Sigourney Weaver having a love trot in a car and stuff like that, right? They were like, while he's trying to like independently figure out. There's so many weird. I don't know why this got out of order. This shouldn't be out of order. She tells him
same with
about
my
these
description
things.
of the movie.
Yeah, pretty much, right. They go for a joyride, after meeting each
But
other.
that's the thing about this
like,
movie. No scene in this movie lasts longer than like 45 seconds. It's just jump, 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 jump. Like,
yeah,
it's nuts.
Like this love story is like it detracts from the whole seriousness of the situation, which infuriated and aggravated me to a point where it's like she tells him, "Yo, the PKI arrived," and he's like, "Well, I can't. I want to tell the story, but I don't want to implicate you, so I need to find out independently." And he goes on an independent journey to find out. This guy's been working with the PKI with the whole time, basically, has been working next to the journalist. So he takes him to this like, I don't know, house in the hills, we'll call it, where there's this family living. They have some green tea, and he watches his girlfriend basically paddle a couple leaves out of the water. Which this one of the scenes I was thought was really weird. She's like trying to. It looks like she's trying to clean the pool with a wooden sign, and they try to make it all like pretty and picturesque, and she just dives into a dirty pool anyway. You're like, okay, weird. And then it immediately, like, this whole series of scenes didn't make sense and didn't really need to be in the movie, right? Then he's having a hot, sweaty night where he has a fucking manic dream that she's drowning.
When Billy gets thrown out the window.
Huh?
That could have Billy get thrown out the window could have been the end of the movie.
It really could have. It really could have been the end of the movie, because the movie goes on for another like almost half hour after that, and this is what's happening after it, right?
This movie was, I think, 2 hours, but it felt like 3 hours.
This scene I liked because of just the scenery. Like, this is obviously beautiful. On location. I think this isn't. They were actually filming in Manila because they couldn't do it in the Indonesia.
Jakarta.
Yeah, Jakarta. That's what I meant. And yeah, this scene where he meets up with the reporter and they get drunk, and I'm assuming this is where he gets his independent info about PKI arriving or whatever. And then he does his shtick with the wanting to sleep with the street workers, and that guy like pushes him out, and then there's just like one kind of crazy scene after another, But yeah, it really could have ended with Billy just ending it, But they kept it going. He ultimately hears. Okay, so this is where it also falls apart, because Guy Hamilton, he's like, no, I'm gonna stay and do the story, and there's all this sort of craziness and stuff happen, and he proceeds to just walk up to the gate like he's got the biggest stick in the room, not like there's an entire army, only to have this guy chase him down. And this is the moment he apparently hits him. When going through this frame by frame, he doesn't even get close. This is as close as he gets with the end of the gun. Mel Gibson's reacting before even it gets hit. This is the only shot.
Didn't even hit his hand.
Didn't even hit his hand. It hits the fucking air. But then they cut to, Mel Gibson bleeding, and, they drive away, and he's one-eyed because he's got a detached retina.
He spends the rest of the movie with an eye patch.
Basically with an eye patch. And then he gets to the point where he's like, no, I got to get to the airport. You know what? Fuck all this. I'm just going to go to the airport. On their way to the airport, we watch this lineup of people just get machine gunned down. Again, another exploitive moment of the movie to drive home that, hey, they're in an autocratic state. So these guys, he flashes the ID. The PKI guy's sweating his balls off. And then they're smiling and laughing not 10 seconds after they just witnessed like 12 people lose their life. And he drives to the airport, and that's the end. He hugs Sigourney Weaver at the door. That's the end of the movie. And I felt frustrated. I felt frustrated and mad watching this happen, because I was just like, what the fuck was the point of this movie? I wanted to like it, but like...
The point of this movie was to set a intense setting for a romance.
I guess so. Like...
It's so a couple white people can go have a nice romance in the just during the like despair and exploitation and starvation of brown people. That's what this movie is.
And it sets up all this like, Billy Kwan might be a spy or might not be a spy, but he's ultimately just not. He's just a weird guy that keeps profiles on everybody. And then in his ultimate downslide of madness, he goes up to the table of all the like creepy journalist guys and calls them out, including the fat one, for basically being a pedo. And the pedo guy as well, he's like, well, what's it matter? I'm getting on a plane tomorrow. You know, it's just like, oh, this feels dirty and gross. You should get your comeuppance.
Yeah, man.
But they don't. They don't get their comeuppance.
Nobody does, except for Billy.
Right? Except, and I mean, did Billy really deserve it? I don't know. Like, he was a weird guy, but I don't think he deserves it.
It depends on what his backstory is that we don't get. It's like, what has he done? You know, we don't know.
Well, that's the thing. They don't entirely go into that. There's just so much they don't explain, and it's just an aggravating slice of life.
Well, which scene would you hold up?
That being said, there was the one scene that I did enjoy, which was this one where they basically talk about, you know, being the eyes and ears and what they're going to do. This is the moment I actually get hooked into the movie. I was like, okay, cool. Let's see where this goes.
Internationally.
Oh God, see, I was just so distracted by Linda Hunt all the film work. The brown paint on her face, like
the shaved eyebrows.
That's great.
Oh God.
That's what I've always wanted, a real partnership.
Yeah, the bronzing tan is pretty apparent.
It's distracting.
I didn't like him. We make a great team, old man. You for the words, me for the pictures.
And quite frankly, Linda Hunt sounds like a woman in playing a male character. That's distracting as well. Like
No, you know what?
Like,
I didn't.
You look at reviews of this movie, and people love this movie and think Linda Hunt is amazing in this movie, but it didn't resonate that way for me.
For me, honestly, I never really looked at it as like Linda Hunt was a woman playing a guy. I just looked at it as a guy named Billy Kwan, right? You know, just a really.
I couldn't because I'm too aware of Linda Hunt and the voice. It's just nothing about that.
Maybe it's because I wasn't that aware of, like, I'm kind of aware of Linda Hunt's work, but I'm not that familiar with it, so I couldn't like be like, oh, that's definitely such and such from such a movie. It's just like, sure, okay, she's pulling this actor, and this was her first movie apparently.
Wow.
Yeah.
Bronzer. All right. Well,
so your hold up? Your scene that you held up, ultimately, I think we settled on this one, which was.
I was in trouble picking a scene I actually cared about in this movie. Oh yeah, this.
She even cuts them out.
And like sticks them on the wall sometimes.
Hey, who are you working for, Billy?
For you?
The communists, the CIA, who are you working for? Why the hell do you keep a file on me?
I keep files on just about everything.
What for?
That's my business.
Hey, look, if you're an operative for someone else...
I'm not.
Well, how am I supposed to know that?
You're just gonna have to trust me, aren't you?
This isn't Mel Gibson's best work. Gotta tell you.
Yeah, I honestly, like, okay, so I'm curious, why was that your favorite of the scenes? Because I felt like there might have been better ones than that.
The scene, like, none of the scenes really did anything for me. Except for ones that eventually then made me angry. But this one, I was just highlighting the fact that they were building a little bit of intrigue and interest in me around the Billy character in that scene, in that moment. Like, why does he have these files? What is the deal with this Billy character? That's what I wanted to know. And we get none of that. So eventually this is squandered too. But like where this movie would try to pull me back in on the odd time would be things like that. Like, what's the deal with Billy? Like, but they want you to focus on Sigourney and Mel, and I don't know, those two are kind of charisma vacuums in this movie, and they don't have chemistry.
Yeah, there's a reason these two never worked together in another film again.
Maybe they didn't get along, and that was
maybe
it came through. But yeah, so like I say, I had the scene. Murphy couldn't find it, but I also mentioned might be my favorite is just when he calls back, gives his report to the Australians. They're like, "That's shit. give me something better."
Yeah, they said it's a travel log. They respond.
Which performance would you hold up?
I mean, Linda Hunt, I guess. Like,
yes.
Maybe the guy that was like, I don't know. I don't know what his name was. I don't know if they actually gave him a name, but he was also, yeah, just gonna go with Linda Hunt. It's really not. I don't know. It's weird. It's weird. It's a weird film. It's a weird slice of life in exploitive and sets up everything but doesn't explain anything, and you're supposed to feel good about it, but there's nothing to feel good about at all.
Well, apparently, which is almost kind of makes it more weird. Apparently, Guy Hamilton is based on the writer of this. It was based on a novel. This movie, Guy Hamilton's based on his brother.
Yeah, I got some movie
who
morsels
served
that
as a
explain
journalist, but like. So that almost makes it worse. Instead of telling a serious tale of the trials that his brother went through as a journalist during this crazy time in this crazy place, he just like wants to like fanfic a romance for his brother in a movie. Like it's
I think
weird,
what happened here is because like
so weird.
this was Australia's most expensive budgeted film at the time. They were like, well, we got to have a romance flick to bring in the American audience because they felt like that was the thing at the time. So there's probably a reason why they like went so heavily in that direction.
Yeah, there's a reason they force romances into every movie because they think, and it's very sexist to think so, they think that's all women want to see in movies, or they think the female audience demands romance in everything. And I don't think that's the truth at all. So, try harder, people. That's what I think. Setting aesthetic.
I mean,
it feels like a real world.
It feels so okay. It feels so real world that I had to question like, did they actually just shoot slum streets and were like,
yeah,
that's it, we're good, we don't need to do anything. But from everything I could tell,
no, I'm just kidding.
I think they might have
20
too.
years
but
after
like
the events,
it's really hard to tell. But like, from what I could tell, and everything I could read, all the sets were. You know, they shot on location, but every background performer was a background performer, even though they looked like emaciated poor people that literally walked out of their sheds with cups. Like, why are people shooting cameras at us? Do they have food? You know, it's like it was really hard to tell, but like when I was going through the screenshots, I was like, okay, they kind of looks like sets. Like they kind of look. Some of those people maybe look a little healthier. Then I don't know.
Me? This movie was filmed in Perth, Australia.
Oh, dude! Like a bit of it was filmed in Australia, like later portions, but those were, you know, the generally like more smaller
dinner
scenes or whatever. Anything that was happening
the swim race
outside location, yeah, right.
The big swim race.
Anything happening, the big swim race, and anything happening outside the locations and on the streets and what are slums, like those were apparently shot in Manila. So I don't know. There's a lot of like this feels too exploitive for me to want to like feel like I'm getting like an important history lesson. Like it made me look up Soprano and the crap that he pulled. And thank fuck he's no longer in power anymore. So yeah, whatever. Sukarno. Either way, he's no longer in power, and thank fuck for that. And the people
he'd be dead
can
by
actually, the the people can heal now, or hopefully they're on the path. But it's this movie just made me feel icky, honestly.
Me too. And bored, icky and bored and confused.
Yeah.
All right, hit us with some morsels, Murphy.
Hit us with a few movie morsels. So we got The Year of Living Dangerously. With a budget of $6 million, this was, at the time, one of the most expensive and ambitious Australian films ever undertaken. Filming in Manila was halted after 3 weeks due to death threats to the production. Reportedly, these were directed at Mel Gibson and Peter Weir. The threats alleged that the film was intended to be anti-Islam for the protection and safety of the cast and crew. The whole production.
I think they mentioned Islam in the entire movie.
Like not once it was even
of all
brought
the things
up.
To be pissed off about in this movie, that ain't one of them.
Yeah, it's like there's maybe one scene where there could be perceived as Islam, and that was like the death scene, because there was like one shot where it looked like there was like a group of people in burqas, but they were in some sort of like funeral shawl. So maybe that's the one thing I could think of even close to being Islam, but otherwise, yeah. But for the protection and safety of the cast and crew, the whole production moved to Sydney to complete principal photography. The move was costly and put a huge strain on the picture's art department. Mel Gibson has said of threats to the film, it wasn't really that bad. We got a lot of death threats to be sure, but I just assume that when there are so many, it must mean nothing is really going to happen. I mean, if they meant to kill us, why send a note?
Gibson, if anyone's used to death threats, it's him. No.
Yeah, for real. Indonesia banned the film until 1999 for its graphic depiction of Suharto's bloody rise to power. The first screening in Indonesia was November 6, 2000, 2 years after Suharto was forced from office after his 32 years of autocratic rule.
Jeez, he lasted that much longer.
Yeah, doesn't that just... yeah, that's terrible. It just drives you gears.
Maybe they shouldn't have got distracted by the romance in this movie and got a better point across, but
maybe, just maybe, if they were able to do that, who knows? According to the January-February 1983...
at the feet of a movie, but still.
Yeah, according to the January-February 1983 edition of American Movie Magazine, Coming Attractions, during filming, at one point during a reenactment of the 1965 storming of the American Embassy, the action became so real that pistols were shots were fired over the crowd to restore order. When more than 1,000 extras got carried away hurling stones at the building. This incident, along with a bomb threat from militant Muslims, precipitated the crew's return to Australia ahead of schedule. So that riot got so out of hand that they're like, okay, we can start shooting guns to calm everyone down.
We started a riot. God.
Yeah, basically.
Tells you they didn't hire actual extra actors. They literally just pulled people off the street. They're like, start hucking rocks at that building, would you?
Yeah, we'll give you $10 each.
Yeah, $10 a rock. They're like, really?
Actors Joel Grey, Bob Balaban, and Wallace Shawn all auditioned for the part of Billy Kwan.
I was going to say that earlier. I was going to be like, another person who always got cast as Asian people is Joel Grey. He used to play a lot of Asian characters too, because again, he's a little diminutive white guy. And my God. Who else did you say? Joel Grey. Totally believe that.
Bob Balaban and Wallace Shawn.
Wally Shawn. Oh, God. I'm glad they didn't do that to Wallace Shawn. I love Wally Shawn.
Right. The novel was loosely inspired by the experience of Arthur C.J. Coke's brother, Philip Coe, an Australian reporter living and working in Indonesia during the mid-1960s, as you touched upon earlier. The meaning and relevance of the title is that it refers to a famous Italian quotation, Vivere pericolosamente. God, I'm so sorry, Italian. Which translates into English as living dangerously. Indonesian President Suharto used the phrase during his National Day speech on August 17, 1964. E-Notes states that the novel takes its title from Sukarno's term for 1965, the year in which the novel takes place. This is a first major role motion picture for Linda Hunt. Linda Hunt's Best Supporting Actress Oscar win was the film's only Oscar nomination, and Linda Hunt is the first actress to win an Academy Award for portraying a member of the opposite sex, and the only actress to win an Academy Award for playing a cisgender man. Hilary Swank received one for playing a transgender man in Boys Don't Cry from 1999. Gwyneth Paltrow received one for playing a woman pretending to be a man, pretending to be a woman in Shakespeare in Love in 1998. Linda Hunt replaced David Atkins in the role of Billy Kwan. So they were going to have David Atkins play Billy Kwan, but Linda Hunt was replaced. Director Peter Weir cast Linda Hunt in the role of Billy Kwan after failing to find an actor who could play the part the way he wanted, which is questionable.
Oh man, a lot of things are questionable. But I was looking up Peter Weir's filmography, and his movies, the ones I have seen, are all kind of hit and miss for me. Like even the Truman Show, he did the Truman Show, but like as much as I remember liking that movie, I never ever want to go back and watch it. Like I never have the urge to go watch the Truman Show because I remember it being
Yeah.
mostly boring. Like I think Peter Weir
Yeah.
movies are maybe mostly boring, kind of like Rob
Yeah.
Reiner movies.
Yeah, I was just gonna say he's very
Yeah,
Rob Reiner. He's from that
yeah,
wheelhouse.
yeah.
I was just waiting for Michael
We're
Douglas
not
to
making
be.
friends with certain people on this podcast.
um, this was part of a cycle of pictures made during the 1980s that featured journalists covering war. Other movies include, and probably all of these may have been better to have watched than what we watched. Other movies include Salvador from 1986,
I
Under
almost picked the
Fire,
China Syndrome. Is that on your
Under
list?
Fire from 1983, Circle of Deceit from 1981, Witness in the War Zone from 1987, Cry Freedom from 1987, and The Killing Fields from 1984.
Yeah.
Cinematography by Russell Boyd, edited by William M. Anderson, music by Maurice Jarre. Release date 16th of December 1982 with a running time of 114 minutes. A budget of $6 million dues, and at the box office it made $2.9 million dollar dues, and US it made $10.3 million for budget box office. So yeah, that's the year of living
10
dangerously.
million American, that's over $700 million dues.
I know, right? Australia, literally, Australia's entire tourist budget was funded for 10 years because of that movie.
All right, rewatchability. Nope, not for
no.
me.
Nope.
Nope. No, it felt very long.
I love X-Men. I love Storm. I'm sure she loves this movie
You
for
mean
some
Rogue?
reason. Rogue, sorry. I'm sure she
As
loves
do
this
I.
movie for some reason. I don't know.
Look, I did mention to you last week I might have a surprise for you this episode. I totally scratched that idea. I was gonna get Lenore's thoughts on this movie, but after figuring out what I was gonna say about it, I didn't really want to like drag her down into this dirt. Like,
That's,
why
you
do you
know
like
what?
this movie? And then I spent like a half an hour trashing it. So, yeah,
Yeah, it was
didn't
that's
do that.
fair. That's fair.
Yeah.
You know, it's not for everybody. You know, I respect this. I gotta respect the film for the fact that it highlighted an atrocity which has like zero fanfare.
No, it included an atrocity. It did not
Okay,
highlight.
yeah,
And
that's a
where it
better way to
fails.
put it. Yeah, it felt like an exploitation of an atrocity, merely for the benefit of a subpar relationship, and paid zero attention to any of the decisive subplots that could have made this movie interesting.
Or better. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
This movie could have been about Billy Kwan. Billy Kwan was the like lead character. It probably would have been a better movie. Though again, maybe played by somebody who's not Linda Hunt. Like, again, she did a fine job, but it's just so distracting, that bronzer. Like, why was the options her, Wallace Shawn, or friggin' like, why were these all the options? No, there wasn't an Asian name in that list of options.
It's 84, baby. What do we expect?
82, yeah, fair enough, I guess.
82, yeah.
Representation matters. Anyway.
It does, and thankfully it's starting to happen nowadays. But 1982, it was not a thing, and they had Linda Hunt play a male character of two different ethnicities.
And she's from New Jersey. All right, Murphy, the big question, does it hold up?
Yes.
Really?
Yes, it does, in the sense that it holds up because it does bring attention to some whack shit. Linda Hunt really, there's a reason every award this movie won was because of Linda Hunt. It was because of her acting. She makes the character of Billy Kwan intriguing and almost despisable enough that you want to keep watching the movie. up until the point where the character dies. Then the movie kind of falls apart a little bit.
Well, see, where the Billy Kwan character lost me was when he started being more interested in hooking up Sigourney Weaver and Mel Gibson than all the important shit going on in his life.
Yeah.
Like, I was like, why? What?
You know, but in reality, no, this movie doesn't hold up. Of course it doesn't hold up. Are you kidding me? Fuck's sakes.
Oh my God, you have me on there? I was starting to write it in the B movie column. Yeah.
No, I
you had me there, Murphy.
I wanted it to. There's reasons I wanted this movie to hold up, but like at the end of the day,
you fooled Willie.
You fooled Willie. It just, at the end of the day, it really doesn't. It's just it's marred, you know, and it just tries to throw a lot at you, but it just doesn't pay off, and it
had screenplay issues. Like, whoever wrote the screenplay, I don't think, like, maybe it was better in novel form, not sure, but the screenplay did not translate well to screen.
I don't know, maybe William M. Anderson's editing probably could have not helped the movie either. Like, it was so slowly paced that, like, it was hard to want to hold attention to, like you said. So yeah, no,
you join the ranks of I Heart Huckabees and Shithouse and Southland Tales and Atomic Blonde, which is just like glamour shots.
You know what, to be fair, it was a Mel Gibson movie, and this is what I expected from the moment I watched the trailer. I was like, this is going to be atrocious, and I did not want to watch this movie. It's half the reason why we're kind of late on this episode. We should have been on last week, but we weren't because like I had things to do one, and I did not want to fucking spend 2 hours of my precious little time I had watching this. So I was just, I pushed it by a week, and hey, it's okay. That's the joy of this podcast. You know?
It is.
I've come to
this
stinkers.
podcast would suck if every movie we picked is awesome. Like,
it's true. And you know what?
It's not the point
I've come with some stinkers. In my personal opinion, not all of them. You don't quite agree, but I think that comes in.
You had at least one good movie, didn't you? Lincoln.
Well, I think I got Lincoln, and I feel like Nightcrawler's in the books. I feel like Nightcrawler.
I like Nightcrawler. Let's talk about it.
Yeah, head into movie 3.
Nightcrawler from 2014, starring Jake Gyllenhaal, Rene Russo. I always enjoy Rene Russo. Riz Ahmed and Bill Paxton, who I definitely always enjoy. And it made me sad because, you know, he died recently, and this was probably the first movie I've seen since then that showed like an older Bill Paxton. So that was kind of sad. And directed by Dan Gilroy.
Yes, this was Dan Gilroy's directorial debut, if you will.
It's a strong opening debut, that's for sure.
Yeah, so before I pop into the plot, you know, give you a little breakdown of the synopsis here. Just give me your initial thoughts on Nightcrawler. What did you think?
You gonna hit the trailer?
Oh my God, I always forget about that part. I'm gonna remember this soon enough, I swear.
I'll start hitting the trailers. You start doing the synopsises because you're better at it.
Maybe that'll be the case. Do you see access to this? I don't know. Much like this trailer, it's fast-paced.
I'm looking for a job. In fact, I've made up my mind to find a career that I can learn and grow into. Who am I? I'm a hard worker. I set high goals, and I've been told that I'm persistent.
And I'm thinking, television news might just be something I love, as well as something I happen to be good at.
Oh, he was so haunting.
Now, I know that today's work culture no longer caters to the job loyalty that could be promised to earlier generations. What I believe is that good things come to those who work their asses off. And that good people who reach the top of the mountain didn't just fall there. My motto is, if you want to win the lottery, you have to make the money to buy a ticket. You have to make the money to buy a ticket. You have to make the money to buy a ticket. You have to make the money to buy a ticket. You have to make the money to buy a ticket!
those weren't even scenes from the movie. A lot of that trailer was bullshit.
No, that's what I loved about this. Okay, so apparently when they
You're
were
not allowed to
filming
do
this,
that anymore.
No, okay, so get
There's
this
recently
right.
a law passed. That was an illegal trailer. We're gonna get taken down.
So basically what happened was when they were filming the movie, I'm just gonna give this little movie morsel up front, because it's apropos. Basically what happened is Jake Gyllenhaal decided to say that line, if you want a ticket to buy a movie, you gotta make the money. He said that line in every scene they filmed because he knew it would probably cut really well together for a trailer. But he only says it once in the film, which is at the beginning of the film, which also happens to be my favorite scene. So, yeah. So we got
opening thoughts. You asked me about my opening thoughts. My opening thoughts
Yeah.
about this movie is there were at least 10 times when I wanted to shut it off, and I couldn't. So that's a strength of the movie. Because
you wanted to shut it off, but you're like,
yeah, it's just like, but it's interesting enough that you want, or at least it's a bit of an engrossing movie in a way. But here's where it fails for me. Well, I'll get into that maybe later. But I will say in this opening thought, I generally don't care for Jake Gyllenhaal in movies. Even as Mysterio, a character I love. I mean, I was fine with his portrayal of Mysterio, but in the comics, like, I love Mysterio. But like, I don't like Donnie Darko, and I haven't really enjoyed the things I've seen Jake Gyllenhaal in. So there's that. So they have that working against it. Two, I generally don't like movies that are 2 hours long, where 90% of it is a character I don't like. Yeah, there you have it.
This used to talk, but I guess the batteries are dead, isn't it?
But like, I hated his character. You're supposed to, but like, I'd rather follow for 2 hours a character I like in some way, and that's not what this was. And the other place where, actually I will say it now, where I feel like it failed is it's too much Jake Gyllenhaal's character. Like,
it is a lot of Jake Gyllenhaal.
I'm gonna spoil a plot point in the movie here for a second, but when there comes to a point where he kills his coworker, his buddy.
That's a pretty big plot point, but yeah.
Well, whatever. We're here and we're spoiling everything on this show. But my point is, there's no reason to care that he did that. They don't give us one scene with that Riz Ahmed character to make us care about him. Like, there wasn't one scene where he's not, like, just being the guy next to Jake Gyllenhaal and just doing what he says.
No, I wouldn't say that.
I would. They didn't, like, they should have gave us one scene with him in his regular life away from Jake Gyllenhaal.
Well, okay, but his regular life is he's homeless. You know, like, that's
show us
that's
that.
the whole thing. You know, that's fair. I mean, okay, yeah, that maybe.
Like, there's no reason to care about anybody. There's no reason to care about Bill Paxton, except for that I love Bill Paxton. There's no reason to care about Rene Russo. There's definitely no reason to care about Jake Gyllenhaal's character, but that's the point.
Well, that's the whole point of the film. You're not supposed to care about anyone. It's his point of view. It's the point of view of a sociopath.
Exactly, but if the whole movie is just him basically terrorizing everyone around.
He's not even terrorizing anyone around him. He's just out to gain
absolutely
for
is
himself.
terrorizing everyone around him.
No, he's not terrorizing. He's gaining for himself.
He's terrorizing Rene Russo.
He's not terrorizing Rene Russo. Okay, he is terrorizing
Pushing somebody into sex, threatening her job, doing all this shit.
It's not that he's threatening
not terrorizing. He's not terrorizing the guy he hires and then makes do illegal shit. This is terrorizing. He's not terrorizing people by, like, forcing crimes to happen. He's not terrorizing cops by sending them into situations where they're going to get killed. He is a living, breathing terrorist. And all he does in this movie is terrorize other people for his own gain. He's a complete narcissist. I hate narcissists. So, like, this character pisses me off.
See, I just looked at him as a narcissist be a narcissist. Really him a terrorist.
Yeah, likely so. He's a sociopath, but he's committing acts of terrorism all over the place. And, like,
okay, well, this is getting to be more than quick thoughts. This is just you getting to fucking blow your brains out about how much you hated this film. So how about you shut up for 2 minutes?
I hate this film. I told you I couldn't turn it off.
So we start off with some chain link fence breaking action where Jake Gyllenhaal is seemingly cutting.
He's trying to be too cool, though. I think that's my problem. It's trying to be too cool.
It's a Dan Gilroy film, man. I don't know what to tell you.
Doesn't mean anything to me.
It's 2014. Everything's trying to be cool post 2000s. You're just,
I guess.
Yeah. Anyway,
what I appreciate though is it's not super exploitive like the last movie. Because
I mean, it is exploitive in certain degrees, but it's got a driven story and a point. Like it's.
I just
not
mean
just
in the way
pointless.
the way I often rag on modern movies for being, like how I predicted everything exploitive in Atomic Blonde that would happen before it happened. Like in most modern movies, you would have seen sex scenes with him and Rene Russo. 100% you would. But in this, they didn't go there, and I appreciated that. So like it's not trying to be too sexy and too cool, you know what I mean? It didn't push that too far for me.
Cool. All right, cool. So the film starts with Jake Gyllenhaal cutting open some chain link fence, which I was a little confused about. I was trying to figure out why he was doing this since the other side of the fence had no chain link fence. I'm like, well, he's not trying to cut through it. He's not trying to go through somewhere. I thought this is where his filmmaking journeys. But he ultimately gets caught by security as he's stealing steel. He's a thief. He's trying to get scrap metal. He assaults the security guard and takes the watch, which is, meant to be a thing, so you don't feel sympathy for this character. Dan Gilroy did not want any point where you would feel sympathy for the arc of this character.
Which is good, which is why I didn't shut this movie off, for sure.
Yeah, like, they didn't want to give him a backstory or any of that. They're just like, nope, this is his moment, this is his life. So he proceeds to, get to the scrapyard, and he, at this point, you start to see that this character is very persistent and driven, and he wants to succeed at things by any means necessary.
He has read like every book on that type of thing possible. Like he's constantly quoting motivational speeches in business tactics and things you read in like how to do well in business and like these types of books. Like he reads all of that shit.
Yeah, so while he's trying to sell himself to try it and potentially get a job at the scrapyard, he's like, listen, I'll even intern, if it would mean getting my foot in the door. And this scrapyard owner is just like, I don't hire thieves. And Jake Gyllenhaal just nods his head and walks out the door and proceeds to drive away.
What was his game there, though? Why would he want an internship at a scrapyard? It makes no sense to his character.
Because
he's looking for avenues. He's looking for somewhere to find success, but an internship at a scrapyard is not that.
Well, when you're in, have you ever been to Los Angeles?
No.
I've been to Los Angeles for a brief 24-hour period, and that was a hellscape in and of itself. If you're living in Los Angeles trying to make money any way you possibly can, you're looking for any means necessary to make a job. So he's thinking, oh, maybe I can work at a scrapyard and I'll have some sort of income. So he's just trying to find a job. This is more or less nothing more than to show you that he's trying to find work by any means necessary. That's why he's trying to become an intern at a scrapyard. He's looking for any means necessary to get money. He wants to be a successful individual. He wants to buy the money. He wants to make the money to buy the lottery ticket, as he says, But, the scrapyard dealer turns him down, so he proceeds to drive away. And in his driving,
he's like, dude, I'm not hiring a thief. You're here selling me stolen shit.
Exactly. Yeah, I don't hire thieves. And he smiles and he walks away and he proceeds to drive away. And in his contemplative driving, he comes across what appears to be a highway accident. And he decides to become a looky-loo. He pulls over and he just sees what goes on. And as that happens, a news van comes up, and that's when we get introduced to Bill Paxton's character.
Yeah, the Pax.
And he comes out and he starts filming, and he tells the other guy to get another angle, and it seems very vulturistic and very gross. And for an individual like myself, I am a freelance filmmaker. The entire nature of this film, I was immediately hooked. I was immediately drawn into oh my god, I get the run and gun filming and trying to make money any way you can, but this is bottom of the barrel scumbag in my opinion. You are filming people at the worst moments.
Paxton even says that. He's he's like, how's this job anyway? He's just like, it's a flaming asshole of a job.
Yeah, it's a flaming asshole of job. And like, Jake Gyllenhaal's character, Lou, he sees Bill Paxton and he sees like, wait, this guy seems to be making money off this. He's getting a look at his system. He's getting a look at his gear. He's paying attention to the police radio. And he's like, yeah, are you hiring? And Bill Paxton's like, fuck no, I'm not hiring.
Yes.
Get out of my face.
Which is hilarious because very shortly after this, he is hiring.
Well, yeah, no, after, not so much shortly, but a few months after this initial incident, because he's not paying attention. He doesn't give a fuck about, random Lou Bloom. But Lou Bloom goes home and he turns on the news and he sees Bill Paxton's footage getting put on TV, and he's like, wow, it's true. This guy got paid money for this. I could probably do this. I could probably go out there.
Well, that's the thing. So, it's approachable on the entry level. Like, you can just pull up at a fucking accident and shoot it with your camera.
You got good footage. You can sell that to a news station.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a whole thing called stringers down there that do this. Like it's very much a culture of thing. Apparently, Jake Gyllenhaal
Also called them ambulance chasers. Oh no, wait, that's lawyers.
No, that's lawyers. But calling these guys ambulance chasers wouldn't be the worst
Same
title.
thing. No.
Jake Gyllenhaal and Riz Ahmed actually followed the guys around for 2 weeks to get like a feel of what the job was like.
Oh, wow.
So anyway, they he sees the news on the TV, so he's like, all right, I need to get into the game. So how does a thief get into the game? He steals a high-end bicycle. He sits there and he waits for one, and sure enough, this dude comes by with like an $8,000 bicycle. You wouldn't think that, but it probably was. And he tries to sell it to this guy at the pawn shop.
Which is hilarious because he puts
none
the
of it.
hipster ponytail in first. He's like, now I look like a bike hipster, right? I have my little high ponytail.
Throws in the top knot just to really sell it. Tries to sell the bike. The pawn shop's like, no, I'll give you like $500 at best.
This scene was funny, actually. I found this scene very funny. He's like, look, this is 37 speeds. I won the Tour de Mexico in this beast. He's like, dude, there is no bike with 37 speeds.
He couldn't sell it, so he's like, all right, how about some store credit? Give me a camera and a police scanner. So that's all he needs. That's the start. He's like, boom, all right. And he's literally trying to figure out how to use this camera as he's sticking it in the faces of cops doing like breathalyzer tests and like simple runovers. And he's not quite getting like where he needs to go until he ultimately
disputes and shit. Like there's just a family outside talking to the cops because there was like a domestic dispute needs us there.
Yeah, he's like just getting in their face because he's like, oh, this is it.
Yeah,
like, get the fuck out of here, man! What are you nuts? Yeah, so eventually, he does come across an accident where he's overshot. He's sort of It's This scene really stuck out to me. I wish I got a screenshot before, but he's behind the first camera guy on scene, and he just sort of like looks at his own camera, and then he looks at the other guy's camera, and then he looks back at his camera, and I know that feeling. I've had that feeling. Every camera guy has that feeling. Every camera guy has that feeling when they first started getting into filmmaking. You're just like, oh, I'm not doing this right at all. So he was, he's kind of over shoulder shooting, and then he breaks away and he sticks it in the face of this poor person getting down. Eventually, cops get pissed off, push him out of the scene, ruins it for both of them, and guy gives him grief. But he gets the tip that goes to KTLA to sell it. So he gets to the news program, gets into the news station somehow. I don't know how the fuck he just walks into this place.
Well, they likely have freelancers walking in there fairly often.
Maybe, but like he has to definitely have signed in or something. Like I've been through a news station or two. You have to like go through a whole sign-in process. They made it just seem like you walked in. But he comes into Rene Russo's character here, and she asks him, like, what do you got on the tape? And he's like, oh, I think I have something you're going to want to see. And that's where he proceeds to show her his first footage, which is this crash. He's like, wow, this is a great eye. They strike a deal. He's like, how much? He's like, I want $1,000, which I laughed at. I was like, yeah, we all want $1,000. Yeah. She's like, no,
I'll give you like $150.
Yeah, he's like, here's like $300, and then that starts him off, and he's hooked, and he proceeds to start making like a database of his own fucking twisted clips, and being the psychopath he is, he starts going full tilt. He starts learning codes. He starts, watching shows, watering his plant, getting on his routine, and he hires Riz Ahmed's character and Rich.
He was ironing, not watering his plant.
ironing his. Well, he's watering plants, but he's also ironing. That there's a handful of scenes prior to this where he's doing daily life routine stuff, and it shows that he's building upon what he's doing. So he decides that he needs a second hand to make himself more accessible and faster to get the
He
things
never
delivered.
intends to pay.
He never intends to pay. He calls in Riz Ahmed's character, who's played by Rich. It plays the character of Rich. He's this homeless character. He's Jake Gyllenhaal's like, you trick. He's like, I don't, not often if I don't have to.
Straight. He's like straight guy's trick.
Yeah, straight guy's trick. It happens.
Yeah.
This is LA. Don't worry about it. And he's like, it's an internship, but it's got good growth and opportunity. And Rich is like, I can't. Again, which is a very, very film freelancer. It's like, I can't do this. I need some money, So he ultimately offers him $30 a night, which I again laughed
all
very
friggin' night.
hard at. Like $30 a night, for all friggin' night. And he's like, oh, that sounds like a great idea. And he hops on board. So these guys start sticking together, and while they're filming this, apparently they would stay up all night and eat like energy drinks and snacks and stuff to give that really strung out look while they're doing their whole like spiel. But they finally get their first call together. Rich is all confused and he's pressured by it. And they're trying to get to the spot, but they get there too late. And Bill Paxton rubs it in Jake Gyllenhaal's face, which these two have a heart to heart. And this is another scene that I really liked. And it was probably, if I didn't pick the scene, which I did pick, I would have picked this one. And I kind of wish I did pick this one. This scene I liked because he's like losing it at Rich, but he's also like, listen, I'm an understandable man, and communication is the key to success. And I just
always
need to know.
does that
with
with Rich, though. That's manipulative, like gaslighting bullshit. Like
it is manipulative gaslighting bullshit, but it was also presented in kind of ways like, okay, he's kind of crazy, but he's also understanding because Rich goes, he's just like, just don't rush me, and he's like, don't rush you. Okay, I can work with that. I won't rush you. And he proceeds to have he understands that, and they proceed to have a working relationship. So they go on to the next scene, and he comes across
that's
this
just a part of his manipulation of that character. Like,
yeah, it is a part of his manipulation. I'm not saying he's not manipulating him
a little. He's just throwing out those little like carrots.
Yeah, but like it's those things. It's those moments in the character that make you kind of want to be like, okay, maybe okay, I can relate to that character. I could relate to this character up to a certain point in this film. And it's when he starts like breaking into the people's homes and like moving their pictures next to bullet holes and getting inside shots. And that's when it starts picking up for him.
He shows up to that motor vehicle accident and like the guy like dead or dying on the road wasn't in the shot he wanted, so he grabs him by the feet and like drags him.
That's coming up, right?
Like,
that's coming up.
What?
That's an like this is the first scene before that. This is the scene where he starts manipulating. He starts like getting into the scene a little more and pushing things around, like pictures and stuff.
Yeah, on the fridge.
Getting really grimy, and like this producer guy who he's just like, no, this isn't right. But Rene Russo's like, whatever. Now this scene between them, he basically starts laying out his grand master plan of how he wants to run LA's biggest news production on the street coverage, and he's going to run this business and all these things that he's going to get and he's going to want. And he's telling Rene Russo's character this, and she's just kind of like awestruck by it. So he goes into horror with the Echo Park, and then it's just one thing after another, which leads to him getting a brand new car. And it's been months, and it's been like 2 months of time where he's been getting news stories and he's getting paid to the point where he gets a new car. And I got to think to yourself, like, has this guy been getting $30 a night for 2 months? This guy gets a brand new Dodge Charger, and he's like, "Yeah, $30 a night's still good." And that's what happens.
To him. Riz Ahmed character mentioned that to him. He's like, "You keep getting all this shit. I need a raise."
Yeah, and there's this one scene where he's like, "Bed, bath,
and talking about my performance review. Where's my performance review?"
Yeah, I know, right? This is the scene where they get ahead of the cops, and this is his first like getting ahead of the cops. So he's like, okay, so he drags the guy into a better lighting, and just and this is where I'm out. This is the moment of the movie where I'm like, okay, you shouldn't be doing these things, and this is also the moment in the movie where I'm like, my heart is in my throat. I'm on the edge of my seat because I'm like, what is this guy doing? And he gets the shot, and he knows he's got the shot, and he's got gold, and he walks past Bill Paxton's character, who's like, what's happening here? he gets his money and he basically goes to Rene Russo, is like, let's have dinner, and they proceed to have dinner, even though she's spotting blood on his shirt and he seems very sus. And we get the whole scene with Bill
That's
Paxton
what
and Rene
exploits
Russo.
her into sex.
Yeah. And Bill Paxton's character attempts to come to Jake Gyllenhaal's character and offer him, he's getting another van, he's going to do a multi thing. And Jake Gyllenhaal's like, yeah, no, I'm going to keep going my own way. Louis Bloom is going to ride his own ship into the sunset. So while doing that, he has dinner with Rene Russo's character. And this was very Dennis from the Always Sunny. He talks this woman into sex. There's a hard implication that's never shown, which is what I loved about this film. Like, it's not.
I like that they didn't show it.
I love that they didn't show it.
He's like, next time I'm at your house, you're gonna do the things I ask you to. Like,
yeah, exactly. Next time we're alone, you're gonna do things. Yeah, that's
gross.
like the big scene. But yeah, he immediately after this scene where he goes from the dinner and he's demanding that they basically, have sex, like it's gonna happen one way or another. You don't get any of that payoff visually, but it's all implied, which well done, masterful storytelling. We get to the next one where he gets nothing and he comes back to her and she rips into him and he knows it and he's got garbage. So it proceeds for him, which is one of the better scenes where he freaks out at this fucking mirror and breaks it in such a manner that it like lands.
Yeah, that was cliche. Like, that shows to show that he hit his breaking point. So the mirror broke. That was too on the nose. Like, that kind of visual shit only works in comic books. It was just too on the nose.
I think it was a great shot. I liked it. I enjoyed it. I thought it was a cool scene. I was like, that was a dope shot.
Like
I watched that shot and I thought it was dope.
in a movie and opening up a freezer. It's like, yes, because they have a cold heart now. It's like, it's just too obvious. That was a silly scene. I actually rolled my eyes when he smashed that mirror.
No, I like that one. Apparently he cut his hand really badly on that scene. Yeah, and then they lead to where he decides to take out Bill Paxton's character by doing a little automotive alterations to his van. Proceeding through the night, him and Rich get a call where they hear of an accident, which turns out to be the van, where they proceed to immediately bust out their cameras and get shots of Bill Paxton's character being dragged away. Rich is obviously in remorse and doesn't want anything to do with it, but
Bill Paxton knows. He gives him the eyes, man. He's like, oh yeah, he knows.
Yeah, he knows what's happening here, and Jake Gyllenhaal's just like looking him dead in the eyes. So he goes on to their next call, which is, again, he gets ahead of the police. Don't know how he does it, but he's racing through the streets. Gets ahead of the police and proceeds to witness a multiple homicide as these two guys are going through the house and shooting people. He gets them filming as they leave, gets license plates, gets all the juice, goes in the house, and it's called the House of Horror for a reason. This whole scene was haunting, even up into this moment. It's like, oh God, don't tell me there's a baby in this scene. And
see, I have a question. Where's the baby?
That's a great question. Where's the baby? Never answered.
One thing that's never even asked. That's the problem. They show all the journalism, all the cop stuff. Not one point do they say, "Oh my God, they've probably kidnapped this baby. There's probably a missing baby." None of that. There's just an empty crib
like
around
they talk about it. It's like, is that
it.
cradle empty? And even before the scene, there was like
the cradle's empty. It's like, what do you mean?
Before he walks into the room, you could hear a baby crying, right? Like,
it makes no sense, man.
Yeah. So he gets a shot, and then
masterful storytelling.
Yeah, and then he bails by putting his hand on the rail. It's like, okay, that's a great way to get busted. Like, everything he's doing here is massively illegal. Films this person who's still kind of alive. And that's foreshadowing to more chaos. Gets back into the car with Rich, who's like, what's going on? They bail out, race past the cops, and he knows he's got the mother of all footage. She's thinking he's bailed, but he comes back to be like, no, I've got the goods. They see what's happening, and they immediately are like, legal team, what's happening? This is the Christian. This is basically the peak of Faye Dunaway's character from Network, where she's like, no, we can make this work. How do we make this work? Let's just make this work.
I'm glad you brought this back to Network. So okay. So Faye Dunaway created all of this. This is all because of Faye Dunaway. Whereas it's sensationalism. It's just pure sensationalism. Like, people in Rene Russo's coworkers here are even trying to tell her that. They're just like, are we okay here?
Yeah,
The
we shouldn't
lawyer's
do
like,
this, but
legally?
we're gonna do this.
She's like, no, morally. Of course legally. Like, they don't care about morals. And then her coworker's just like, no, like, journalistically and morally, we can't play this. Like,
and she's like, fuck this, we're doing it anyway, you know?
yeah, exactly. The fact
Yeah,
that
this
she
is
knows and it keeps happening, it's going to bring the cops down on all of them because they keep having all this insider friggin' footage to crimes. And of course, it's going to bring the cops down on them.
So she basically, you know, she goes to Jake Gyllenhaal's character and is like, okay, what do you want for this? And he proceeds to lay down the laundry list of what he wants.
$100,000.
Yeah, he breaks it.
$100,000.
He goes from $100,000 and ultimately settles with $15,000. And he's like, listen, if I'm giving you the lowest number, that's the lowest number, and you're going to pay it because of such and such. You're going to do this and you're going to do that. You're going to do the things I tell you you're going to do when we're home alone, and you're going to introduce me to your coworkers, and you're going to do all this. And she proceeds to give in to his demands, and starts
throws in
following
the
in line.
Paxton footage for free.
Yeah, and throws in extra Paxton footage and stuff for free. And yeah, so they break the big news detail. They start showing all this stuff, and immediately cops are on it. And the whole time, this Loose Blooms guy's like, "This is me. This is it. I did this. Go ahead and come talk to me if you want." You know, he's got this whole plan played out, and he sees to just seemingly play the cops and the detectives as they try and interrogate him and be like, "What were you doing there?" He's like, "I was just helping," you know, even though he was just not. He was just being an exploitive shitbird.
He wants to come off to them as weird and despicable, but not incriminated. He's just like, so all the weird suspicions you have about me, it's all just because I'm weird and like antisocial and that sort of thing. So
yeah. So he ultimately decides to go back on the footage that he's got, and he decides to look up the license plate of these guys that were shooting, and then he proceeds to find their license plate and tracks them down. At which point he gives Rich the speech. Is like, listen, we're at a critical moment here. You're going to be vice president. And he's like, does vice president come with a raise? He's like, name a number, any number. And he starts with like 100. And then you think he's going to say like 100,000, and he goes with 75, and he's like $75 a night. No worries. And you're just like, oh my God. Oh
He's
God,
like, I could have
Rich,
got more,
why?
couldn't I? He's like,
yeah, he probably could have. So they proceed to go, and and this is where Rich starts cluing into what they're doing. He realizes that they're tracking these fucking bona fide murderers, and he's like, "This is insane. What are we doing?" And he's like, "No, you're gonna clutch through." And they've tailed these guys until they're at a better location where he's like, "This is where we want to film them." And they follow him at a gas station. You think you're gonna be it, and my heart was in my throat. I'm like, what is like gonna happen here? What is he gonna do? Ultimately tails them to the gas station where he calls into the cops, and he proceeds to tell them they have a gun and they should be there right away.
They're
at the restaurant. And then he sets up his cameras and he just waits. And the tension of the scene, oh my God, I couldn't stop watching.
It was a tense scene.
It was so intense. The cops pull up and everything goes haywire. They start shooting like you would assume. Buddy goes busting out the window, gets in the car.
This movie was very predictable, though. That was my biggest issue with it.
Like predictable, but a lot of movies are.
All his character turns were very obvious. Like 5 minutes into this movie, I'm like, oh, he's gonna start like causing the crimes and shooting them. Like it was just very obvious.
Well, that was kind of always like parlayed in the trailers and stuff. But yeah, he they get into this wild car chase through
was a bit
Laurel
wild.
Boulevard. Yeah, it was a great car chase, like even better than in Ronin. Honestly, like it was pretty sick.
No, it wasn't better than the Ronin one, but it was good.
I thought it was better paced than the Ronin ones. Like,
yeah, it was probably better paced, but it was
the
less
scene
realistic.
where like the scene where he like sideswipes the cop, and they crash through, and then he drives through. Well, I mean, yeah, there's a lot of cuts, but at the same time, anyway, he gets through this crash scene.
It doesn't work.
This SUV is pulled over the cop, or is flipped over. Jake Gyllenhaal gets out to film, and while he does that, he gets a good look, and he calls in Rich, and he's like, "Come here, get the shot." Rich calls over, and this scene honestly shocked the fuck out of me. I'm not gonna lie. Rich goes over the camera, you see Buddy with the lights, and then he just bam, bam, shoots him 3 times.
Too. Yeah, that's the problem. I saw all this shit coming.
How tell me how you saw this coming? You saw this exact scenario playing out?
Yes, once just like right before it happened. As soon as he looks in and he says, "Hey, come over here," I'm like, "Oh, he's gonna get this guy shot by the guy in the car." Because they
Honestly,
didn't show the guy in the car, so it's just like, oh, so he's obviously still in there. Like,
well, yeah, he's still in there because he's in a vehicle, like it's an upside down.
no,
But you
but
don't
like
expect him to be
gonna.
conscious.
I did.
How did you possibly know that?
Because it's the pattern of this movie. It's how everything plays out. You have to suspect, like, it's almost trying to be too surprising, and therefore none of it's surprising. Like, it's like the obvious surprising thing, you know what I mean? And they always do the obvious surprising thing. So it's like, if obvious and surprising can be put in the same term like that. But I'm not bullshitting you, man. Like, I kept predicting everything, and then it would happen, and I was like, oh, whatever. But then another scene that, like even like the restaurant scene, it's just the way this movie plays out. You know everything that's going to happen. You know cops are going to
Yeah,
go
you
in,
know
they're
everything's
pretend
going
to
to
get
happen because
stuff.
that's what
You
builds
know
on
he's
the
going to shoot at
tension.
the cops, and more cops are going to like. There were very few surprising things, I felt like, in this movie. Not that a movie has to be built off surprises. Like I say, I like this movie.
Okay. Well, okay. I think it's wild that you weren't surprised by this scene because this scene actually shocked the hell out of me. I thought this scene was very surprising. I was
also
shocked.
Because he tells Riz Ahmed in like literally the scene before this what he's gonna do. He's like,
well,
what
yeah,
if I
no,
told
there's
you
foreshadowing
I'm not just
that he's
weird around people. I don't like them. And what if I told you I will hurt you because of what you just did? He just they kill all the surprises.
No, I'm yes, if you're paying attention, there's a foreshadowing scene where he's like, if you don't tighten up, I'm gonna terminate you. Like there's shit like that, yes, but I'm
No,
not.
he
I'm
tells him
saying,
he's gonna hurt him.
well, yeah, I'm not saying. Okay, for fuck's sakes, Davan. What I'm trying to say here is, yes, this scene particularly was not surprising because yes, it was obvious that Riz Ahmed's character Rich was going to end up being hurt or killed. But the manner in which it happened, in my opinion, was shocking and surprising. And I find it bullshit that you think that you knew exactly what was going to happen, that this was going to play out exactly like this.
And I'll just give you the other reason how I knew this. Like I said, not like 20 minutes before, but I certainly saw it all happen, so it wasn't a surprise. It's because the way this character that Jake Gyllenhaal plays works is he makes other people do his dirty business. So it's like he's never going to kill anyone with his bare hands. He fights that guy about the fence in the start of the movie, but other than that, he makes other people run into each other and do things to each other, like the cops and the criminals and the Bill Paxton, and like he makes, well, I mean, he did cut the brakes on Bill Paxton, so that he did himself, but like that's still like a little ambiguous. He doesn't know if that's going to achieve the goal he wants. He doesn't know this because he messes with Bill Paxton's car. It's going to end up in Bill Paxton being written off and out of the business because that's what he wants. He wants Bill Paxton out of the way so he can get all the business. But no, like that's, I don't know. That scene to me was pretty obvious because it made no sense otherwise. Because he's already there with his camera shooting inside the car. Why does he need Riz Ahmed to come over and take the exact same shot? Like it was all very orchestrated.
Okay,
they could have done just a couple of things different and made it like a little less foreshadowing.
Okay, so for you, I guess you're fucking Mr. Clairvoyant and you can see this bullshit. For me, I saw this scene and he's like, "Okay, come in and get an extra shot of the shot," because that's what he's been doing the entire movie. He's been getting him to come and get extra shots of the shot. They didn't frame it in any way. He's been telling him to go
get different shots. He's like, go down the street and get one from that angle, and I'll stay.
Well, no, he says, he's like, come here and grab your camera. He's like, grab your camera and come here. He doesn't tell him to stand at the exact. He eventually backs out of the place and then lets Rich just sort of wander around, which leads to this, which shocked the fuck out of me. This scene shocked me. I assume he saw Buddy coming too. I was surprised. I didn't see this coming, right?
See, but
so he shoots him, and anyway, I'm gonna wrap up the.
He hired these guys. I think he hired these guys in the first place to go friggin' attack that house. Because they seem to recognize him.
What? No.
Yeah,
no. There's no way. That's a whack theory. Okay, they don't need. No. That's a whack theory because they even say after all this shit happens, after this guy walks out and he notices him with the camera, he decides not to shoot him because he recognizes buddies with a camera. I'm assuming. I don't really know why.
A camera in his hand. Because
I know. I don't
him.
think I don't quite understand why. Maybe he's just like made eye contact and was like, "Fuck it, whatever."
There's
I'm
only
on
two
camera.
explanations. One, he was hired by him and recognizes him. The other is, which I think it's the first one. The other is just that he's like stunned and he hears cops coming. But that makes no sense because he just shot 3 shots at this other guy who was just looking at him harmlessly. So it's like it doesn't make sense unless he hired him.
I don't think that's the case. There's nothing at any point in the story that would lead me to believe that he was hiring these people to do any of this shit. Especially considering the
fact
later
that he's
scenes.
causing crimes to happen and accidents to happen.
Well, no, he's not causing crimes, but he's definitely not he's interfering.
Situations. That's what he does. He creates situations. And I think that's
he doesn't even create situations though. He capitalizes on situations. He alters situations like the driving
brakes and like.
Okay, that one was created, but the other ones weren't. The other ones were alterations. He stepped in.
What about his 911 call to the cops?
But that's
making a situation.
Okay, there's 2 moments where he creates a situation. Is when he fucking fixes Buddy's wheels and he calls the cops in because he wants the shot, right? The other ones were alterations of a situation that he had nothing to do with, right?
Except in this case, it's like you said when he was in that mansion. You're like, somehow he got there before the cops. It's like because he knew it was going to happen. They were waiting.
No, he got there
because.
Place. Well, no, he got there before the cops because there was the call, and cops are notorious for being fucking slow at getting to locations, and he drove there faster than he did, right? Explain this. If he hired them, right, and he knew what was going on, why the fuck did he jump in the bushes before they came out and drove away?
That's a good point.
Like, why would he immediately hide?
He wasn't hiding very well, though. He really wasn't.
No, he wasn't hiding well, but he was hiding. He was hiding. If he hired these guys, he would just been like, "Hey guys, see you on the next one," and walk to the building.
It's dark. They might not recognize him and just think it's somebody seeing them commit a crime and shoot them out of precaution.
He hid in the bushes to protect himself and get the shot.
Yeah, exactly.
That's what he did.
To protect himself from like being accidentally shot by the people he hired.
Again, if he knew he hired them and he was going to be there, why would he have any fear of them shooting him?
Because it's dark. They might.
It's not dark. It wasn't dark in the driveway. There was a well-lit driveway.
It was very shadowy.
It was shadowy, but it was well lit enough that he could have.
Faces.
No, in the areas of where the truck was, you could see their faces. Okay, we're getting into a diatribe of fucking nothing.
Finish the plot synopsis.
Jesus Christ. Anyway, so our man gets shot by the police because he pulls on them and they shoot him. Jake Gyllenhaal gets the shots and he proceeds to film Rich die and bleed out because he knows it's money. And then he goes back to KTLA and he's like, "Hey, you guys are having a great day. It's just another day of business. It's just another Tuesday for Louis Bloom because he's got all this money." He brings it to her, Renee Russo's character. She loves it. She's all on board, and she's back in every movie he does. And the police come in, and they're like, "We want this footage. This is ours." KTLA blocks them because legally it's theirs. And they're like, "We want to know the guy." And she's like, "I don't know where he's at." And they're like, "Oh, well, he happens to be in the studio." At this moment, I thought she was selling him out. I was like, okay, he's at the river, right? But no, he at this point, we get the other producer come in and he says that the home invasion was actually a drug run. There was like cocaine and all that stuff in the house, and it was actually...
This is how he set it up. I think he told people there were drugs in the house, and boom. But who knows?
What they found cocaine. How would he know there's cocaine in the house?
He pays attention. He might know those people. Who the fuck knows?
What fucking asshole theory are you pulling out of your fucking ass right now? Are you kidding me?
No,
this is asinine, dude. Sorry, no, this is ridiculous. This is ridiculous. That's the most bullshit theory. No, that completely ruins the movie if you honestly think that he's like, "No, I hired this and set it up."
Did that look like a drug den to you? Did that house look like that old dude dead on the floor look like a guy who's got friggin' cocaine in the walls?
I don't know. How many did you watch Breaking Bad? How many times was that a thing?
No, I did. That was a dumb show. I watched 2 episodes.
You never shut your lips. Do not tell me you think Breaking Bad is a dumb show.
It's a dumb show.
Oh my God, Davan. You have no idea that is one of the best shows on television. What point did you stop watching Breaking Bad?
2 episodes in when I couldn't handle it.
You're fucking bullshit. You're bullshit, sir. You get no opinion on Breaking Bad because you tapped out 2 episodes in. You get no opinion, sir. Fuck you and your bullshit. We are going to have a goddamn podcast where I'm going to make you watch every episode of Breaking Bad. Every single one. And we're going to go back and forth on it. Oh, it's going to happen, Davan. I swear to God, before God and earth and every member of the UFP, you and I are going to have a Breaking Bad podcast. And by the end of that podcast, you're going to see why that is one of the greatest shows on earth. I can't believe you just told me this right now. I can't believe. Shut your fucking lips. You don't get any opinion on Breaking Bad. You don't get a single fucking opinion on Breaking Bad. You watch 2 episodes. Your words are useless. They are meaningless and they are nothing. Not a goddamn word from you about Breaking Bad means anything on this earth until we watch every episode in a podcast. And you can tell me then. You can tell me then. Until, nope. No, you can say it's silly all you want. You can say it all you want. You can say it's silly, but it doesn't matter. It's useless. Everything you've ever said is useless and completely pointless because you just said that about Breaking Bad. And you can't speak on Breaking Bad after watching 2 episodes. You're fucked. You're absolutely fucked. You're fucked. You're sorry, sir. You're fucked. I love you, but you're fucked. That's ridiculous. That's ridiculous. Every member of UFP, I want you right now to recognize I will make this man watch all of Breaking Bad, and we will podcast
the only
about
UFP
it.
member that doesn't like that show, right?
Are you kidding me?
I'm not kidding you.
I'm not surprised that you're the only UFP member that doesn't like that show.
I'm not the only UFP member that thinks that show is stupid.
Well, this is derailed everything I've been talking about.
It was like drug culture. It was silly. Like, as soon as like that friggin' side character like sniffed Buddy's meth, it's just
no.
I was done
You don't
with
get
that
words.
show.
You don't get words, sir. None of your
stupid.
words matter. This is completely sidetracked. This is for another day. This is for another day. This is a discussion for another day, a hard day. God damn it. Back to the show. Anyway, so our characters go from the ability to back to the show. So anyway, our characters decide that the cocaine it was a house and that was the true story, but she doesn't want to run it. She says save it for the noon news. And that we get into an interrogation scene with Louis Bloom and the detective. Louis Bloom just lays it all out, and he's like, "Yeah, if you meet me, it's the worst day of your life. It's just a shame. Don't want to do that." And he proceeds to walk away scot-free. Absolutely, and proceeds to run his own video production news company. He gets interns, he gets multiple vans, and he proceeds to spread his infection across LA.
That made me laugh.
And that's the end of Nightcrawler. You son of a bitch! I can't believe you never watched Breaking Bad.
It sucks. I don't care about shit like that.
2 episodes. You can't say that about Breaking Bad. 2 episodes in it. No.
That's enough.
No.
That's enough.
You're wrong.
I'm not gonna watch 10 episodes of something to just further entrench my dislike of it.
No.
Just getting a show to intrigue me with the first 2 episodes is not a big ask. You shouldn't have to watch 10 episodes of something to start to like it.
You don't need 10 episodes of Breaking Bad to start to like it. I can guarantee you'll probably be starting to like it by the 5th.
I doubt it. Anyway.
Jesus Christ. Anyway,
what scene would you hold up?
You know what? The scene that I held
He
up...
got lost his shit again. I'm telling you. Nobody can poke the bear like me.
You're bullshit with Breaking Bad. You can't believe you besmirched Jerry and Gilliam's work. Wait, no. Is this it? Yeah, this is it. This is my favorite scene, which is basically the intro scene, where he talks about who he is.
For a job. In fact, I made up my mind.
The scrapyard scene's your favorite scene.
Who am I? I'm a hard worker. I set high goals.
I do.
Told that I'm persistent.
I like this scene because I can relate to this.
Myself, sir. Having been raised with the self-esteem movement so popular in schools, I used to expect my needs to be considered. But I know that today's work culture no longer caters to the job loyalty that could be promised to earlier generations. What I believe, sir, is that
he's just so full of shit.
Their asses off.
Like I wouldn't hire him either. He's so full of shit.
Didn't just fall there. My motto is, if you want to win the lottery, you have to make the money to buy a ticket.
Yes, there's the line.
Did I say that I worked in a garage?
Which is a lie. He's never worked anywhere. Like, he just stays home and reads the internet. Like, that's what he does.
They don't really allude to what he does, which is, one of the better part of the story.
That's the illusion they make. Like, he's this obsessive person who just, like, stays home and absorbs
How about
information.
An internship, then? A lot of young people are taking unpaid positions to get a foot in the door. That's something I'd be willing to do.
I'm not hiring a fucking thing.
Like, he strikes me as someone who's not only, like, a sociopath, but, like, maybe also on the spectrum.
Well, yeah, he's very Asperger's-y in his own sense, but he's also very, like, sucked into his own game. Your scene that you say would hold up was with the one with Bill Paxton trying to hire
Just
him.
because I love Bill Paxton, and this was the most Paxton of all the Bill Paxton scenes. Like, he's 100% Pax in this scene.
Yeah, well, this is his media scene for sure. This is one that got him the most lines.
Great get tonight.
He's so fucking charming. Like, he's the opposite of Jake Gyllenhaal. I see friggin' Bill Paxton and I smile. I see Jake Gyllenhaal.
Saw your car. Man, you're not dropping your shit off, are you? Nobody does that.
Adam Driver has the same effect on me. I see Adam Driver and I'm like...
Import the video to your laptop, cut the video, upload to your FTP site, and notify stations you got something for sale.
You're aggravating.
Boom, boom, boom. Otherwise, it's a nice ride. Listen, man, you got a good run going, but there's valleys out there. Take it from me, I've been Nightcrawling 14 years. You heard I'm adding a second.
It's the only time they use that term in the movie.
It's true, yeah.
Cut my on-scene time in half. I'm setting up a dedicated dispatch too. No more listening.
It's funny. This whole scene is just like him being like, "Oh wow, this is a great idea. I should take this."
Never used one. $6 a piece.
But he doesn't show his cars by doing that.
How do you need a dedicated dispatch when your vans all have police scanners?
I have a camera.
I want you
So he
running
doesn't
my
have to go
second
driving
van.
around
Two
town.
crews. Half
Wouldn't
the
you
area
rather
goes
sit
to
at home
driving.
dispatching vans and
Half the
making
money,
money
right?
instead of driving
Oh,
around
he's
town?
the dispatch guy. Okay.
Because we're gonna
Yeah.
be the first at every scene. Why compete? We can work together. I can share my press cards, puppy dog off my police connections. This is the big move. The next
The police
level.
connections would have been good to
Whole
have.
thing, I'm talking about putting some heavy
He's giving him a
digits
good
on the
offer.
rock.
Like a really good friggin' offer.
It is a really good offer.
Yeah.
But he's too egotistical and sociopathic to take it.
He could never work for somebody.
Take a few days to think about it.
No,
It's true.
you'll need to hire someone else, and I don't want to hold up the process.
You want to be on the inside of this, man, because I'm going to be tag teaming every call.
You keep talking like it's something that I
Care
may
about
be
what you're
interested in,
saying.
but I'm not.
You don't even understand the offer. If you did, you'd be fucking sucking my dick. You asking me questions. What does this mean? What does that mean?
That was the most
I
Bill
feel
Paxton
like
shit ever.
Grabbing you by your ears right now and screaming
this
in your
line.
face. I'm not fucking interested.
I've wanted to say that line to a
Instead,
few people
I'm gonna
before.
drive home and do some accounting.
He's like, but I'm not gonna do that. Yeah.
Fuck you.
Twerp.
Twerp.
Twerp. Yeah. He is a twerp. Yeah, that was a good
Paxton's a
scene.
twerp fan.
Bill Paxton's great. All right.
So yeah, Bill Paxton was one of the greatest. Game over, man. Game over.
Said, hey Sanchez, you ever get mistaken for a dude? She's like, have you? That was a classic line from Aliens. Aliens. Well, what performance would you hold up? Some good performances in this one. But like I say, like it's 95% Jake Gyllenhaal. It's a bit.
Yeah. Yeah, and you know what? For me, I enjoyed that. You know, I was down with the Gyllenhaal. I've always been down with Gyllenhaal. I liked him in Donnie Darko. I liked him in Jarhead. I liked him in, I like him in a lot of movies, So yeah, for me, Gyllenhaal was great, but also Riz Ahmed's Rich. His portrayal of the character was really well done, and I liked that a lot. So.
Yeah, I would have liked more of that character. I'm gonna give it to the Pax. I like the Bip. He was straight up Paxton.
Yeah. Yeah, it would have been nice to have more Bill Paxton in the film.
Renee Renuso was really good though too.
Yeah, she was great. She was
her
great.
character was horrible. She was just Faye Dunaway, but
yeah, she was modern. Faye Dunaway is Christina. Diana Christensen. Yeah, Diana Christensen. Yeah. But yeah, no, it was she was great. She knocked it out of the park, and the the chemistry between her and Jake Gyllenhaal was really good, like in
Yeah, I
all of their
agree.
scenes.
Like not in a romantic way, but as far as
No,
acting
but just
chemistry.
yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
yeah.
Like the back and forth was.
But
Like,
honestly, I've never seen an actor Renee Russo didn't have chemistry with. There's something very real about her performances, I find. She always comes off like, even as like something fantastical like Thor's mother in the Thor movie, she's still super like grounded in her performances, and it's like brought some seriousness and some weight to some of the lesser Thor movies.
True. Yeah, I would agree. She also, yeah, she did a great job in this film. Honestly, like there was a small cast, but every cast member really like held their own. Right? It was a really good film.
It's like in the opening credits they list off like 5 actors, and then the movie starts. I'm like, is that it? Actors, okay.
Fair enough.
But yeah, all right. The setting aesthetic looked good. Too many cuts, but that's modern movies for you.
I had no problems with the cuts. I thought it was.
I don't
really
like
well
when
paced and edited
actions
film.
like I'd rather just look at an action scene in a static shot. Like maybe not one static shot, but you get the idea. Rather than just like
You can't
all
all
these
get
cuts
Jackie
that are just
Chan
there.
action scenes though.
I
Not
understand
every film
that,
will do
but
that.
I understand, but it's just I don't like the other way as well. Like a fight scene, How many hand-to-hand fight scenes are just all cuts, so you don't actually have to see anybody doing fighting, you know?
Yeah, but I don't.
That's
Again,
what
I
made
don't
that
feel...
Daredevil scene in season 1 of Daredevil so great. You know, that single shot,
The hallway scene, yeah.
Yeah, like that's what made that so great. Which apparently there were some phantom
don't get me
cuts
wrong.
in there.
See, this baffles me why you're like, Breaking Bad's a terrible show. I'm gonna make you eat those words, sir. I'm gonna make you eat those friggin' words.
You won't. You won't.
Yes,
The theme's not there for me, man. It's not a theme I would enjoy. There's nothing there for me. It's something has to have something to do with like something I care about for me to be interested in.
You can't care about the story of a man who's given terminal cancer and is like, I need to make money any way
because I know enough
can.
about that show to know that none of his motivations make sense. And that's the biggest criticism you'll hear of that show, is that his like Breaking Bad makes no sense. Like it's just like unbelievable, unrealistic decision after unrealistic decision.
It does make all the sense by the time you get to the final episode.
Well, like again, you shouldn't have to watch seasons of shit for it start to make sense. But
what the
fuck
are you saying?
You said it'll make sense by the final episode. I'm like, I don't.
No, I'm saying by the final episode, all of his motivations make sense because that's the culmination of the entire story, the end of the story. Fucking don't shake your head at me, sir. Don't give me that fucking dismissive bullshit. You are so incredibly fucked.
I'll let you have a conversation with somebody who has watched it and still agrees with me, and then you'll have a conversation there. Hit us with some morsels, Murph.
Oh my god, I'm so.
Can't imagine there's too many for this movie. You get worked up easily.
There wasn't.
Show.
There was a fair amount, but yeah, it is a part show. Anyway, so Nightcrawler. Wait, we gotta intro. Blah.
Like Andre listened to the first episode of our podcast. He sends me a message. He's like, Murphy's really antagonistic. I'm like, You make me out to be the bad guy. It's you, buddy. Anyway, continue with your morsels.
You know why I get antagonistic? Because somebody keeps interrupting me every time I try to have a cohesive thought. 2014's Nightcrawler, during the scene where Jake Gyllenhaal during the scene where Jake Gyllenhaal screams at himself in the mirror, Gyllenhaal got so into the improvised scene that the mirror broke, cutting his hand. He wasn't actually meant to break the mirror. He just got so into it.
Shit.
No, he really he wasn't meant to break the mirror.
On that morsel. Bullshit. It's
all right,
too cheesy a scene for it not to have been on purpose. It's so cheesy. Like if it wasn't
cut
meant
his
to be
hand,
in there, they could have just put another mirror up and have him not.
Okay, well, you know, if he wasn't meant to break the mirror, then how come he cut his hand and he was driven to the hospital by the director after a 19-hour day of working, and they got 46 stitches in a 4-hour-long operation.
Well, I didn't
Then
say he meant to cut his hand.
Well,
He
I
was supposed
mean,
to cut his hand.
if he's breaking a mirror, he's not going to cut his hand. If he's meant to break the mirror, he's not going to cut his hand. He wasn't meant to break the mirror.
Showbiz ways to do that. Well, maybe.
There are showbiz ways to break a mirror.
Yeah.
There are safe ways to break a mirror, but the way he broke the mirror was unintentional, and therefore he cut his hand and got what was it, 46 stitches. This
Gyllenhaal. That's pretty method.
Yeah, they ended returning to the set 6 hours after being discharged. This is the reason why Gyllenhaal has a hand behind his back in the scene where he tells the scrapyard owner his motto. So the whole scene, he has his hand behind his back is because he's got his hand wrapped up in stitches and shit. Director Dan Gilroy on the impetus for the film. I think to some degree it's certainly an indictment of local television news, but I'd like to cast a wider net in the sense that all of us really watch these images. I would hope that maybe a viewer would take it further and maybe go, why do I watch these images, and how many of these images do I want to put into my own spirit?
See, exactly, which is why I don't view those types of images. Like, people scour the internet for fucking horrible shit all the time. I actively avoid such things. Even like the news. Like, you even have to limit how much news you allow into your life. Like, how much bad news that you can't do anything about do you really need to hear? One of the wisest people I ever knew, a mentor of mine, told me that. He's just like, I don't read the news. Like, why do I need to know something's horrible's happened to somebody that I can't do anything about? Like, what good does it do them? What good does it do me? And there's a certain point where you can't be ignorant to everything because nothing will ever change. But there's a middle ground there where you don't need to friggin' torture porn yourself to death. And like, there's a reason there's so much mental illness and depression and stuff these days. It's like, it's self-inflicted to a large degree.
It's all because of, Faye Dunaway.
It's the internet. Man, the real. I was about to say the real reason he decided to make this movie is he saw Network on TV and it's like, oh, I could do that. Make Network.
Several actors auditioned for the character of Rick, but while most played him as a laid-back, pot-smoking surfer dude, Dan loved how Ahmed's audition played him for Satter, which I also appreciated.
But again, we needed more from that character because what was his deal? Was he on drugs? Was he like? They gave us nothing about his character.
He wasn't on drugs. He was just. Well, no, he wasn't on drugs. He was just a homeless LA native.
No, but it's not just a homeless LA native. He asked him. He's just like, "What do you do for work?" He's like, "Well, I did this for a week. I did this for a week. Did this for a week. Usually nothing longer than a week." There's a reason you're being fired every week. And that's the part of the character I feel like they should have gave us. Like, just give us one scene to show us why this person is in this very exploitable and manipulative
situation. Yeah, no, that's fair. I agree with that. Yeah, I agree with that.
And the same with Renee Russo. Like, they didn't really give us any kind of backstory or anything for her character either. She's somewhat principled in the beginning, and then after like a couple of apartment dates with Jake Gyllenhaal, she's like completely like corrupted, which was like one of the characters even comments on it. She's just like, you sound like him now. You sound like Lou. Like,
yeah.
And that was a bit abrupt too. Other than like, it's a bit of.
Well, I mean, there's a lot of time jumping in this film, so what feels like abrupt could have been time.
Too much, maybe a bit too much time jump.
This film was based partially on the career of Arthur Weegee Felige, the first photojournalist who was well known for reaching crime scenes quickly by tuning into police radio broadcasts. The film was shot over 28 nights, and after the scene in which Lou shows the newsroom his house horror footage, the broadcast director cuts to break on a Bird's Eye food commercial featuring wolves. The movie follows this theme of predatory animals in its depiction of Lou, and the commercial ends with the slogan, "Dinner is complete," as the horror house story is Lou's big break into the world of stringer journalism. The diner scene with the two shooters eating within saw competing opinions from the film's technical police advisors. One said the police would wait for backup and then enter in a line, shotguns at the ready. But another recalled that when he was a street cop, he and his partner would enter the establishment and order at the counter as a way of vetting the veracity of the call. They went with the latter as to aid the suspense better, which, like, it did. It was a very suspenseful scene. The film's climax was filmed on Laurel Canyon Boulevard in the San Fernando Valley, over several blocks away from the location of the infamous shootout in 1997 between two heavily armed bank robbers and LA police, in which both robbers were killed. They closed down. Yeah, you didn't know about this?
Well, I know that was what the movie Heat was based on. Yeah.
Yeah, Heat's based off of that same scenario. They closed down 10 blocks of Laurel Boulevard for a few nights to capture the police chase. Writer-director Dan Gilroy came up with the idea for the film after he heard about a crime reporter in the 1930s who was the first to put a police scanner in his car and take photos of crime and accident scenes and then sell them to the papers. I thought it was a very interesting...
Don't lie to me, Dan Gilroy.
No, I thought it was a very interesting intersection between commerce and crime. Before I could do anything with it, Joe Pesci made a film called The Public Eye, which effectively killed that specific idea. He moved to LA afterward and learned about the present-day Nightcrawlers, which became the basis for the story. Dan knew he wanted to direct the film after writing it, and as it would be his directorial debut, he turned to his brother Tony for help. He sent the script to Tony, who thought Dan wanted him to direct, and Tony reluctantly began convincing himself to do so as he was on a break from filmmaking, but a call to Dan cleared that up in confusion, and Tony happily supported his brother's moving into the directing. They filmed early newsroom scenes at Los Angeles and KTLA studios. They were going to kick us out if the big story broke, is what Dan Gilroy said. The line, "You have to make the money to buy a ticket," only appears once in the movie, but Jake Gyllenhaal insisted on recording it on all the different sets and different styles because he knew it would work well in the trailer. They compare the news sequence where Lou's home invasion footage is broadcast with the news anchor's commentary guided by Nina's voice in the ear, similar to a scene producer in the earpiece in James L. Brooks' masterpiece Broadcast News in 1987. An age gap relationship with the woman as the senior partner is very, very rarely shown in Hollywood movies. It is interesting to note that the intercourse between Nina and Louis is only alluded to, although a sexual relationship is alluded to in a couple of conversations between Louis and Nina, and the two actors never make any physical contact with each other aside from shaking hands.
Alluded to, but...
Well, yeah. During a Q&A, director Dan Gilroy stated that he views Louis' insane drive as an infection that spreads to each character Lou interacts with throughout the film. And at the closing of the film, where Lou's company vans are parting ways down different streets, is, as Gilroy describes, the infection spreading through the veins of the city.
Yeah, fair.
Yeah. When Louis upgrades to the Dodge Challenger, Rick spills gas on the new car while filling up the tank. Louis chastises him for it and threatens to terminate him, foreshadowing his fate when Lou intentionally leads Rick into getting shot right near the end of the film as he threatens to compromise the operation. This film is not related to Marvel Comics character Nightcrawler, who is a member of the X-Men. However, several actors from this film would later collaborate with Marvel projects. Jake Gyllenhaal played Mysterio in Spider-Man Far From Home from 2019, and Rene Russo played Frigg in the MCU films Thor, Thor the Dark World, and Avengers Endgame. And Riz Ahmed would play Carlton Drake or / Riot in Sony's Venom.
Movie. We don't talk about Venom. We don't talk.
In 2018.
We
the
don't
filmmakers
put them in the same sentence as other good superhero movies or anything like that. Sony monstrosity.
Fair enough, I guess. I enjoyed Venom. The filmmakers made a point of not having Lou Bloom undergo a character.
The way you just hollered at me about Breaking Bad, I could send right back at you right now about Venom there, bud. But I have class, so continue.
there's far more to talk about Breaking Bad than Venom. Like, Venom's a terrible film, but I enjoyed watching it.
Exactly. It's terrible.
The filmmakers made a point of not having Lou Bloom undergo a character arc because they felt he would have become a certain type of person and stayed that way as an adult. That was also why the initial scene has Lou assaulting and robbing a security guard. It was important that the audience not feel Lou become a worse person because of his work as a Nightcrawler, but instead recognize he was malevolent from the start. Jake Gyllenhaal did most of his own driving scenes, including the climactic car chase at the end. Cinematography by Robert Elswit, edited by John Gilroy, music by James Newton Howard. The release date of October 31st, 2014. Its running time of 117 minutes with a budget of $8.5 million. It made a box office of $50.3 million, the most money out of all three films.
It's the newest, of course it did. But rewatchability, no. I'm not going to rewatch this movie.
I would rewatch this movie.
No, there's nothing. It lacks. It was well done. Like, I'm going to jump ahead here for a second. Does it hold up? Yes, it does. But would I watch it again? No. It's a good movie, but it lacks depth, I find. Like, there's no depth of character. There's nothing to really, like...
It's not meant to be.
Attach yourself... No, but there's nothing to, like, attach yourself to want to see again. Like, when I go back to see a movie, like when we were talking about, would we go back and see Network? Yes, because of character. Because of characters like Beale and Ned Beatty. It's just like, those are memorable characters you want to see again. And it's like you say, there is no character arc with the main character in this movie, and that main character is in 98% of the movie. So it left me feeling sort of like a little bit flat and empty at the end of it. Well, while you're watching it, it's very exciting and stuff. But when it's over, it's just like, okay.
See, I don't know. I could rewatch this film because for me, like, I strongly relate to the character because of my personal profession. And due to that, I feel like there's rewatchability in the film for me. I found it exciting. I found it put me on the edge of my seat. I found it terrifying at certain moments. There's certain scenes I would love to rewatch again now that I know how they played out, because I would like to actually pay attention to how they, potentially filmed and or made those scenes. Yeah, there's a lot of reasons why I'd rewatch this film, and the lack of character isn't a down spot for me, because I feel like they wanted to focus more on the morality of what was happening in the film, which is these guys that go to these crash scenes and film these things that probably shouldn't be filmed, only to force feed and propagate, the fear machine that is media and journalism.
All right. Does it hold up? Make it quick, though. I had us on good schedule for a 2-hour podcast till you yelled at me about Breaking Bad.
No, I was on good schedule, and then you started tearing me off when I was trying to do my plot like you do every episode. So yeah, it does hold up for me. It's a
good movie.
Great movie, yeah.
Journalism movie rankings.
I mean, for me, it's Nightcrawler.
The Year of Living Dangerously is at the bottom.
Yeah, it's Nightcrawler and Network for me, and then Year of Living Dangerously at the bottom.
I'm gonna have to give the number one spot to Network just because it had more rewatchability for me. But
okay,
that's
you just don't want to give into the fact that a modern movie was entertaining, and give it the top spot.
I think I enjoyed it more, but it was also like, a high octane kind of movie. It's supposed to excite you more than Network. But as far as like memorable scenes and rewatchability, though, I have to give it to Network.
Yeah, that's fair.
It's like, for a memorable scene for Nightcrawler, I had to pick out some rando Bill Paxton scene, because other than that, there weren't any particular scenes that really jumped out at me. But the cop thing was tense, I will admit. The cop scene in the restaurant was freaking tense. Yeah. Even though it was
The restaurant,
obvious what
him
was gonna
walking up
happen.
to the house, him crawling into
The
a
house one didn't.
houses-
That one didn't really do it for me. The house one.
For me, I was like, "What are you doing, guy? What are you doing, guy? Stop! What are you doing, guy?" Like that's what I was like when I was watching that scene.
Well, but we've got another addition to 2A movies tonight. Nightcrawler. And a lowly C movie. All right, Murphy, hit us with the trailers. Let's end this 3-hour podcast. Next time will be 2 hours. Trust me, everybody.
This thing's never getting less than 3 hours.
I
It's
have
never getting
ways.
less than
I have ways. We'll discuss
not
them after the
happening.
show. I have ways.
Right. Well,
All right,
we've got
but
coming
Nightcrawler,
attractions,
there
but
it
before
is.
we get to those, or what you got? What are you doing? Okay.
Nothing. Just
Okay.
showing the A movies.
Okay. Well, anyway, this has been a somewhat contentious show about journalism and holding up movies and all that good stuff, and that's what we do at this podcast because we're part of a united federation of podcasts. Where we talk about all sorts of sweet things like Star Trek over at Live Long and Podcasts, where they got their commands divisions and their alts there are other divisions where they talk about things, including Locutors of Trek, which gets in the deeper, darker, nitty gritty parts of space with their probes and all that jazz. We got a fine crew there. You should definitely be checking us out if you love your Star Trek. If you love horror, we've got the Hellbound podcast, horror movie podcast with Alex Blackburn and Michael Chan. These guys do it. I don't know, how often are they? Do you know, Davan? Once a month, isn't it? Give or take.
Well, every week. No, it's way more than that. It's like every couple of weeks, I think. But every weekend now, they do like these mini reviews, like 3-minute movie reviews, like that come out on Saturdays.
Rock on. So Michael Chance was also on the Graphic History podcast with Andre Mayette. A 2-parter that's just been released. Should definitely be checking that out. Oh, it was a 1-parter? Oh, he's had a 2-parter with Frank Forrestal. That's right. Andre is also a host of the X-Men X-Rated podcast, which is the X-Men animated review show. You guys were just watching Nightcrawler, were you not?
It was quite apropos this week. Indeed.
Yeah. And speaking apropos, you got your folks over at Super Mario Brothers podcast talking about all things reality TV with Big Brother Survivor Series. I think they're doing the Big Brothers recently, so you want to check that out. We've got KBBBL podcast. The extra B is for BYOBB.
It is. We're finishing up season 1 on Friday.
Oh yeah, because it's that time already.
Yeah,
How many episodes?
It's only 13 episodes in the first season.
Okay, that's good. And we also got trivial debates where people come in and we debate things. Our recent episode, the love theme episode, where Davan was a host, and well, he did not best as well as he hoped.
He wasn't the
Let's just
host.
put it that way. Or no, he wasn't the host. He was a guest. We had Eamon Mater as a host. Davan was.
No,
a guest.
I did. I was robbed.
Yeah. Well, you know. Jody and Jessica, they brought a good fight to the table. You should check that out.
Jody yelled at me on that show just like Murphy did on this show. I get yelled at wherever I go. I'm a bit picked on here in the United Federation of Bullies.
It is what it is, you know. He's a man that really pushes us up the hill sometimes when we don't want to be pushed up the hill, but we appreciate him for it. So sometimes we just yell at him because he's pushing us. That's why we yell.
And I can take it.
Yeah, he can take it and he can give it just as much as he can take it. But yeah, that's about all here we've had going. We talk journalism, and on the next episode of Hold Up, we're gonna be diving into the deep, wide world of television, as we're gonna be covering films like UHF.
Murphy's forcing me to watch Weird Al for an hour and a half to 2 hours.
I can't believe you haven't watched this. Have you even watched the trailer for this? You're about to, because we're going to watch Coming Attractions. Thank you for your time and enjoy the movies.
Everybody.
See you next episode.
Have you seen Stay Tuned before?
No.
Oh, you're in for a treat, bud. You are
Well,
in for
I
a
am.
treat.
I am.
Guns don't kill people.
Channel 62 has the lowest ratings in the history of television. What they need is a new station manager.
No, not him. Forget it. No way.
A man of action. A man of
This is not gonna be funny.
A man of vision.
This is the funniest film.
I dread this movie. I definitely dread this movie.
What they get is a man so desperate, he'll put anyone on the
God.
air.
This is a movie for 8-year-olds.
How'd you like your own TV show?
Okay. You get the drink from the fire hose! Okay, you ready? Open wide!
He's Conan, the librarian.
Today, we're teaching poodles how to fly. We beat out the networks.
George Newman. He starts where the others stop.
We're the #1 station in town.
Orion Pictures presents Weird Al Yankovic in UHF, the movie.
Does that have Fran Drescher?
Yes, it's gonna be amazing.
Sorry to disturb you at this hour, but I have something you want. A new TV?
It broadcast programs no one had ever seen.
Wednesday at 9.
John Ritter
don't miss
rules.
An all-new episode of The Silencer of the
No,
Lambs.
it was great.
Then
Don't get me
one
wrong.
night, Roy
Looking
and
forward to
Helen
this.
Nabel got sucked in and discovered that hell is one TV show after another.
Let's welcome our new contestants, Roy and Helen Nabel!
And they're starring in every show.
I've watched enough wrestling to know one thing. It's all fake. No one ever gets it. Not fake. Not fake.
So the object, Mr. Pierce, is to kill them before they reach the end.
Oh my God, we're cartoons. I am not a mouse. I'm Helen Nabel. I have 2 beautiful children.
Mom? Our parents are trapped in television.
Now, they can't go home. They can only switch channels.
Where'd he go?
Hey, lady, watch out!
And every series is a nightmare.
That's entertainment.
Because Satan is the sponsor.
Okay, everybody, head spins. Very good, very nice.
Well, time to rock and roll.
Start me up. You got to start me up. Start me
Don't miss this comedy from hell.
Party time! It's SLS!
That'll save her.
Stay tuned.
The fact that you think this is gonna be hilarious and UHF won't be, I don't. They're fucking almost the same film.
I just feel like UHF's gonna be the less funny version of Stay Tuned.
No, UHF is like the original.
I don't
It's gonna
find
be
Weird
so
Al funny.
Let me see this.
Dude,
It's a loyalty
it's one of my all-time favorites.
Are you now, or have you ever been?
The Joker first. Moreau signed it.
This one I can't remember if I've seen or not.
Are you and I a target?
If I don't sign it, the
I definitely haven't, and it's such a mood shift. I kind of wish I didn't pick this one, but here we are.
No, it's good. We don't want 3 wacky ass movies.
Any man who protects communists is not fit to wear that uniform.
You can't convict people by rumor and hearsay and innuendo.
Are my children going to be asked to denounce me? Are they going to be judged on what their father was labeled? I see a chain reaction that has no end.
Charges were in a sealed envelope. Nobody saw
I've
them.
not seen this.
Wouldn't you guess that the people who have seen the contents of that envelope might have a better idea of what makes someone a danger to his country? Or do you think it should just be you that decides?
Who are politics movie or a TV
Are they
movie?
appointed? Is it you?
Both.
I've searched my conscience, and I can't find any justification for this.
Our next show is going to be about Senator McCarthy. We're going to go right at him.
This is about
We will not walk in
McCarthy
fear
era.
one of another.
Communists,
This is no
the
time
Red
for men
Scare.
who
and
oppose
all
Senator
that.
McCarthy's methods to keep silent.
Mr. Edward R. Murrow has made repeated attacks upon me and those fighting communists.
Somebody's going to go down.
You're going to get audited this year.
Not me, you.
McCarthy wants April 6th.
I will not be deterred.
He's going to come after me.
You understand the position you're putting us in?
Let's walk very carefully through these next few moments.
Why don't you just fire me, Bill?
Go after Joe Kennedy. We'll pay for it.
Murrow is the symbol, the leader, and the cleverest of the jackal pack, engaged in propaganda for communist causes.
Okay, fellas, here we go. We might as well go down swinging. We're gonna go with the story, because the terror is right here in this room.
10 seconds. 5.
Ever notice how precisely David Strathairn says everything?
2.
It's very precise.
We cannot defend freedom abroad by deserting it at home. Good night, and good luck.
That's not what I thought that movie was about. Interesting.